I love the Angry Video Game Nerd, if you couldn't tell. If you couldn't tell by watching my videos. Yeah, this guy likes the Angry Video Game Nerd. Yeah, who would have guessed?
I actually would like to become an Angry Nerd reviewer just like you.
See, that's me. I actually did wear his skin and become him. No, but seriously, people draw the comparison, and obviously I'm influenced. In fact, I'm more influenced by the Angry Video Game Nerd than probably anything else ever, any other series ever, not just in terms of my work, but in terms of, like, my interests in life, my taste in games, my taste in, like, anything, my taste in online entertainment has all been shaped by the Angry Video Game Nerd more than anything. It's like my favorite thing. It was like the first thing that I became, like, a mega fan of. That I knew everything else. I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't get enough of the nerd. I couldn't get enough of him. I couldn't get enough of just keeping up with all this stuff. And it opened this whole world of retro game YouTube to me. And of course, I got sucked down that and I got into like all the other people. But it all started with the Angry Video Game Nerd. He was the first and he was the best. Sneakily. Really well made. And everybody who tried to ape him, everybody who tries to do their own game review thing on the internet realizes that he made it look so effortless. He made it look so easy because he had the film background. He had all the best equipment back then. He was really just in a league of his own in terms of making a crafted show out of this persona that because he did it in the early 2000s or mid to late 2000s before anybody else really was. So the plan here, I watched every single episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd. Of course, I've seen them all already, but I rewatched all of them for this. And I have this tier list split up into 5 tiers. We have the What Was He Thinking, which should be self-explanatory. Pioneering the episode is important in like internet history or like nerd lore or something, but rewatching it wasn't the most entertaining thing in the world. His fake smile recreating Dracula from the Nintendo Power episode represents like a good episode, but not quite the Gold Collection, which is the best of the best. The Cinemassacre Gold Collection, named after his VHS tapes that he put the original episodes on before YouTube. And this tier list is only going to apply for the first 106 videos. After that, something really important happens, and that is the shift from away from game trailers getting the first episodes to YouTube. If you didn't know, in the early days of the Angry Video Game Nerd, like after 2006, okay, so the first episode up until Bible Games were all posted to YouTube first. But then he and Screw Attack struck a deal with Game Trailers, which used to be a website where you could go to watch videos on there. Like, apart from YouTube, they had their own hosting thing. It was completely separate. So he would post videos there first, and then 1 to 2 years later, the episodes would make their way over to YouTube. So if you're not aware, if you click on an Angry Video Game Nerd episode and it starts with the first aired, and then it'll show a date, but the date in the YouTube description doesn't match that, that's why, because they were on Game Trailers first, and they would get millions of views on Game Trailers first. So the view counts on YouTube are inaccurate as well, because people would watch these videos on YouTube, or on Game Trailers primarily. Episode 106 was the last episode to be hosted on Game Trailers, and that was Bible Games 3. Everything from Atari 5200 at number 20 all the way up until Bible Games 3, which is episode 106, was on Game Trailers first and then later brought to YouTube. Also, almost all of the first 100 episodes were in 4x3, and he made the switch in Rob, which is episode 100. So episodes 100 to 106 were on Game Trailers, but they were in widescreen. But they weren't in HD. They were in widescreen, but they were still standard def. And by HD, I mean just 720p at this stage. These episodes were still 480p, they were just widescreen. And then when he came back to YouTube, he took a 6-month break after Bible Games 3. And then when he came back, I believe it was both in HD and the episodes were being posted to YouTube first. So that's where I divide the series into 2. And the reason I don't want to rank the later episodes the same as the earlier episodes is because they're just simply not the same show. The YouTube metagame changed, resulting in like longer videos, him making longer videos. He would bring in, you know, the slobs, ghostwriters to write, like, I mean, they're saying like Mike was a ghostwriter the whole time, but like later on he would add more cooks to the kitchen. He wouldn't be editing all the videos himself. basically it's a completely different show. And also he gets older, becomes more the James that we have now as you get closer to present day. So you got to draw the line somewhere. I'm drawing the line there. And I don't think it's fair to rank all of the episodes in the same tier list. So we're dividing it up into old nerd and new nerd. So without further ado, let's rank Castlevania 2. But first, a word from our sponsor. Man, I'm on hold waiting to schedule a doctor's appointment, but it's taken forever. Man, I'll bet that I could schedule an appointment with ZocDoc before anybody even answers the phone. I've been putting this off because I don't like making phone calls. I don't like sitting on hold. And I usually assume the next available appointment will be weeks away anyway. ZocDoc allows you to search and compare local doctors and see their actual appointment openings. You can also look through detailed doctor profiles and reviews from real patients before choosing the option that works best for you. Appointments are often available within 24 to 72 hours, and you may also find same-day openings. Once you find a doctor and appointment time that fit your preferences, you can book the visit directly through ZocDoc. And booked. Yep, still on hold. So if you have been putting off going to the doctor because you don't like calling around or searching for doctors, then ZocDoc makes that so much easier. So take your health into your own hands and click that link in the description. Taking care of your health just got easier. Head to ZocDoc.com/Jason Graves to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. This is a quintessential pioneering tier, obviously. Obviously it's going in this tier. It's pretty much the whole reason I made it, because episodes like Castlevania 2 are really tough to rank. Obviously it's revolutionary. It's the first ever video attempt at a comedic game review. The first of its kind, the first episode of the Angry Video Game Nerd. Fun fact, he doesn't even really count this as the first episode. If you go to season 1 of the Angry Video Game Nerd seasons, he doesn't even have this in there. You need to go and find the other upload to watch it. Oh, and by the way, I watched the Screw Attack cuts of these episodes. I did not watch the ones uploaded to YouTube because there are changes between the two. Not with this episode, but I'll get to the differences as they come up. In Castlevania 2, he's angry, and the anger is funny, but it's not a great critique of the game. I know, it's easy to sit here 20 some odd years later and be like, oh, he didn't really make great points about the game. They don't really hold up to scrutiny. But it's that's not the point. He just made this as a joke in probably less than a day. It's not the cleanest made thing either. There's the part where he jumps into the pit, there's a cut right before it. So he manufactured the footage for his point. There's parts where he recycles footage. The editing is much looser than what he would settle in as the pace of an Angry Video Game Nerd episode. I think it's funny how he calls Dracula way too easy and then shows footage of him dying to Dracula, which is, different than what he's saying. So there's footage mismatch between what he's saying and what's going on in the game. I think the gag he leaves us with that, oh, by the way, the ending sucks too. So it seems like the video ends and then it goes black for a bit. And then it comes back and he goes, oh, the ending sucks too. That's a funny bit. Then Jekyll and Hyde. Mike didn't do title cards for the first two videos, so you just have what the old thumbnail used to be before he changed it. Jekyll and Hyde is the complete opposite of Castlevania 2 because it has almost nothing to do with the game. It is just pure character work. It's the first video is this guy being really harsh about this old game. And then the second one is him exploring what kind of a loser would actually care that much about the game, because he has said how many times that the whole joke was why would you go out of your way to make fun of some old games? And it is infinitely interesting that he made these before there was a real way to distribute or view them or show them to people. So they really were just a funny thing he was making for fun. The first time he's on camera, before he expects anybody to see it, this would remain the costume forever, which is amazing. He's also drinking Rollin' Rock, and that would of course become the character staple. So basically everything he's doing in this video is just character work. And instead of talking about a really famous game that you probably do remember, he's talking about a game the viewer probably doesn't know about. What's really impressive about the video is that it's pretty much just one take. The entire first half of the video is just him on camera, just looking at the camera, cutting a promo, and he carries the scene really well for just a guy with a camera in 2004. But you can already see the seeds of what puts him ahead of everybody else making videos on the internet back then. Even in this old ancient video where he barely talks about the game, just the fact that he is like clearly visible and there are lights pointed on him. You can see the shadows of stuff like in his room. So like there is some kind of light pointed on him. Even just having that knowledge, like a competent camera and the lights pointed on you, put him ahead of basically everybody making internet videos back then. And this isn't like written out. He's just cutting basically a wrestling promo. And it really is like a wrestling gimmick. He's just doing a fucking character. Then, even though he shows that he's capable of capturing clean gameplay footage, because that's all Castlevania 2 was, from his years of using a VCR, I guess, to edit. I assume that's how we got this original footage, unless he had a DVD recorder back then, which I don't think he did. I think he got that later. He intentionally makes the game footage shitty, just because he doesn't care about the game. Like, this one's not even worth setting up the VCR, even though setting up a camera and pointing it at the TV would actually probably take more effort than just hitting record on a VCR. It's not the most entertaining video to watch now, but it is still impressive. It's 6 minutes long. The whole thing is only 3 shots. It's him talking to the camera, him pointing the thing at the TV, and then it cuts back to him. And it's completely like unedited. The whole thing is just him rambling. And I wish I was as good as James was at rambling even 20-something years ago. Then we have Karate Kid, which has no title card either. And even though it's tempting for me to put this in the pioneering tier as well, it does represent a significant step up in terms of the production quality of these. It's a little interesting that Karate Kid is shorter, yet the highest production episode yet. It was a couple years later. He has moved out of his parents' house, as he is said before that the first 2 videos were filmed in his parents' house. That's his childhood bedroom we're seeing in the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde video. And now he's got the apartment that we see all throughout 2006. And he starts with an American movie reference where he actually pulls off the effect where he actually manages to put his head through the cupboard. And there's even more character work, and this time he puts Nintendo Power posters in the back, like, look at this man-child having all this Nintendo stuff in the background. But when I was a kid and I would watch these videos, I just thought that it was cool. The joke was completely lost on me that why would you have these posters in the background? I just thought it was a cool thing. It's like, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna have these posters in the background. It's more of a critique of the game than Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's more like a mix of two. Like, it's got character work and it's actually like a critique of the game. So he's kind of blending the first 2 videos together. There's one shot where he has this bird in his pocket pouch and it's just never acknowledged or ever spoken of ever again. Ending on a joke would be a staple of these videos going forward, and in this one he spits on the game and then it's implied that he puts it in the toilet. Just the implication. It cuts to black and then there's a toilet flushing sound. So he hadn't worked up the chutzpah to actually like do something crazy for real, to like actually damage a game for real. Of course, he would go on to have many memorable game destructions, but not yet. He's cut into black still. Roger Rabbit didn't originally have a title card, but they did one later. And it's really nice. Mike, if you didn't know, Mike drew all of these title cards, which they also used for thumbnails for the first however many episodes they did it for. I don't know exactly when they stopped, but for the first 100 or so episodes, Mike still drew title cards. And this is what they used for like the icon of the episode. And then, you know, when they brought in Screenwave or whatever, they changed all the thumbnails. This one's fine. I think it's a significant step down from Karate Kid because it's back to just being voiceover again. And it still has some funny stuff. It's most like Castlevania 2. His observations and jokes in this video are funny. I believe this is the first time he ever goes, yeah. I think it's the first time he ever does that.
Yeah.
Calling her on the phone is a great joke, and he gets nasty. There are some 2006 episodes where he gets dark in a way that he just never would now, or he never even would do that like a year or 2 later. He gets like actually like threatening to kill her and her whole motherfucking family. Wait till I draw your suicide note in your own blood. Then of course we have Ninja Turtles, which is still one of the most famous episodes, and if this goes anywhere other than the Cinemassacre Gold Collection, I am fooling you, the viewer. I'm fooling myself. This is like what made the Angry Video Game Nerd the Angry Video Game Nerd. This episode right here. This is the one that like, it was the big breakout. It was the first big hit, I think. It was the first one on screwattack.com. It was both the funniest and the best produced one yet. By best produced, I mean that it's mostly voiceover. There's just an intro with some cuts and some shots and some like really light filmmaking, you know, set to the music of the game. And then you have the legendary ending monologue. This video changed the course of history. There was like a before Angry Video Game Nerds Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles review, and then there's an after. Like this encapsulates the experience of playing through like a crappy, frustrating game so well. He's clearly reading like the entire end monologue too. Like he's just reading it, like he's looking off camera, like, and then he looks back to the camera. He's like, "Cow, a fucking piece of dog shit. This game is diarrhea coming out of my dick." Yeah, that's the whole fucking ending monologue. That somebody would get that angry and swear that much and just say these things about a Nintendo game. It was really funny. It just like unlocked the idea that you could make fun of these games and it could be really funny, because a lot of these games are old and ridiculous. You Can Just Walk Over It is an amazing setup and payoff. Like he really twists your arm, like it shows you the problem, it explains the problem, you see visually the problem, and then the solution that you can just walk over it. It's really funny. It's just really well told. Fantastic episode, even judged now, like even watching it many years later. A lot of these, it's like, yeah, it's not that funny anymore. Like Castlevania, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, even Roger Rabbit, Karate Kid even. Like, I would argue these videos, they're not like that funny anymore. Ninja Turtles is still really funny. Back to the Future, he's gone back to being a little less caring with this one. This might even be What Was He Thinking tier. It's not a good video. Even if you watch the original Screw Attack cut, this one gets butchered in the YouTube upload because he relied really heavily on these movie clips. Most of the lines from the theme song come from this video, but I don't know. I feel like after you make the Ninja Turtles episode and you follow it up with this, it's like we're kind of going backwards. And funnily enough, coincidentally, the first time he ever says, "What were they thinking?" was in this episode. I don't know, I just don't think it's a really funny one, and he focuses in on the wrong game. Like, he talks about the original Back to the Future game like it's this irredeemable piece of crap, when it's okay, like it's just an endless runner. When the real crappy Back to the Future game is 2 and 3, and he barely even talks about that one. But it's just one shot. Like, he even pointed out in a later episode, like, the shirt's all wrinkly and shitty, and yeah, this isn't a great episode. Then McKids. Oh my god, Mike would get way better at drawing these. Holy crap. This is terrifying. This is the first ever theme song. The theme song was introduced in the McKids episode. I think it feels kind of weak as well. I don't think it's quite What Was He Thinking tier, because there's a bit more to this episode. It's an odd choice of game too. I don't think it gives them much material to work with. And that's an unspoken, like it should be obvious, but I think in the discourse of Angry Video Game Nerd, the choice of game matters a lot. Like the game has to give him good material, or else the episode's usually not very good. I think this is an example where the game, it just doesn't give him any material. Like, all he has is like Ronald McDonald. What is he on, drugs? Like, that's all he has. Maybe those drug jokes weren't quite the cliche they are now. Like, now I hear what were they on, drugs? And you just fucking roll your eye into the stratosphere. But back then, you know, I guess people hadn't made the joke 100 times, so I really shouldn't bemoan this episode for it. Oh, they're hiding stuff in the clouds, and it's like, yeah, James, if you've ever played any game ever, yeah, they hide stuff. They hide like little hidden pathways to get through it. And the part that he gets stuck on is really stupid too, if you've actually played the game. Like, I'll show a map right here. You just have to go around this part. Like, there's a branching path and you just have to go down. That's all it was. That's all he messed up. If he went back, like, right off screen and then just went down, then he would have been fine. It is funny that the next bunch of videos are gonna be like 5 and 6 minutes long, and a whole minute of that is dedicated to a theme song. You really could just upload like a 5-minute, like a tight 5-minute video back then. Wally Bear in the No Gang. I thought "Press Here, you dumb fuck" was the funniest joke I had ever seen, I had ever heard in my entire life when I watched this for the first time. I think this episode also has the first ever example of a YouTuber doing the "put the game in the system wrong" joke. Other than that, it's another short, basic 2006 episode, but for some reason I like it more than these fine ones. I'm gonna put it on the same level as Karate Kid. And the addition of him actually calling the Wally Bear number, which was not in the original episode, but if you watch any re-upload or the official version on the channel, it's there, where he actually calls the number that they give you in the game. This is where he first used the only infant child puking to death line, which he would bring back and apologize for later. Then we have Master Chu and the Drunkard Who. This is the shit pickle episode. That's what it's known as, the shit pickle episode. Oh, and also you might have noticed I'm not using clips from the show because they're really litigious about this. I've seen a lot of videos talking about the Angry Video Game Nerd, even just the episodes, not the movie, get taken down for using clips. They police it really strictly, so I'm just using still shots. Shit pickle's a little funny. It's only funny in like a meta contextual, like what was he thinking sense. Like this, you know what? If this isn't what was he thinking, then I don't know what is a what was he thinking, because I understand like it's an, you know, the series is really new and he's just trying new things. What was he thinking? A pickle that just says shit pickle. It leads to some funny moments that he introduces this cartoon character that just says shit pickle, and then he like asks him, "Hey shit pickle, what do you think?" And then he just goes, "Shit." But he's always saying shit, but like that being the punchline to like what he's saying is pretty funny. The game itself, again, you gotta pick a good game that gives you good material to talk about, and this just isn't. It's a boring game that there's not much to say about, which is probably why he thought the need to introduce this dumb cartoon character. Top Gun, however, would give him much more to complain about. I don't think this is quite Cinemassacre Gold Collection, but it's still a strong episode, and of course, like landing the plane and refueling and stuff is a really memorable moment. Apart from that, the game itself is kind of bland, which doesn't like give him much more to complain about than that. Just like, oh, it's boring, you're flying into clouds, and oh, I can't land the plane. Double Dragon 3 is the birth of Bimmy and Jimmy, but other than that, there's like nothing going on in this episode at all. This is probably just, it's fine, I suppose. It doesn't have like great jokes though. It's not really that funny, aside from like Bimmy and Jimmy, that's it. Like he would go on to coin his own nickname, of course, like 20 years later in the TCT community. Well then, this is just nothing special about this one. Friday the 13th is the most obvious Cinemassacre Gold inclusion so far. To this day, might still be the best thing he's ever done. A legendary S-tier episode. The sarcasm that he's praising this game, only to reveal that it's because he's being held hostage. And not only is he forced to play the game, he's forced to say nice things about the game. Chasing him through the apartment. Don't kill me, he shows in the game. Kill me. It's all awesome. The big difference between the original Screw Attack version and the YouTube version, though, is the music. They replaced the music. It was using music actually from Friday the 13th originally, and go figure, the scored Friday the 13th music fits and it works a lot better than the weird shit they like MIDI shit they replaced it with. I think this is the first episode where him being an amateur filmmaker who went to film school and had all the stuff and the equipment, the stuff in the equipment already shown through, like, and whenever he's on camera, he just looks a lot better than whenever anybody else was on camera back then. Really, this is like the first episode that it's more of a short film than it is a game review. It's got some all-time jokes, like his fake game over screen, you and your friends are dead, your fucking pets are being skinned alive, like that whole spiel I thought was the funniest fucking thing ever. And also, it's more mean than he would ever get. Like, he wouldn't get mean, he would lean more into like the poop jokes later on than like the dark I'm a sociopath jokes, which might be for the best, you know, it was 2006. That's just kind of the way it was back then, I guess. And I'm being serious, and then it cuts in dead fucking serious. That was this video, though he also has that in the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde video. That's the joke he ends on in that video, so it's actually a callback to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde when he does that. Then we have Nightmare on Elm Street, which, it's cute that these 3 episodes, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and then the next one, the Power Glove, which he's actually wearing in this drawing, because that's how he fights Freddy at the end, that they all kind of flow and connect into each other. They tease each other as well. If you watch the Screw Attack cut, it begins with like an Alfred Hitchcock intro recapping everything that happened in the Friday the 13th episode, which I honestly didn't remember, as well as an outro like explaining like, join me next time when I talk about the Power Glove, which of course these have been cut out from the YouTube ones. The clones was a really cool digital effect when he clones himself, and he's in in a dream, so it gives him license to do that. There's also a credits bit set to Alice Cooper, Welcome to My Nightmare. This is, I mean, it's obviously Cinemassacre Gold Collection. It's gonna be tough for me to not put any Halloween episode where he put a lot of effort into in the Cinemassacre Gold Collection. They're just obviously very well done, like him fighting Freddy in like the closet at the end, and the clones, and the cutting himself up. A lot of great bits in this, and the games themselves in these two are actually pretty interesting as well. Oh, is Freddy coming? Then we have Power Glove, and man, these episodes were so tight. You told, like, if you asked me to guess how long a Power Glove Angry Video Game Nerd video is, I wouldn't have said 12 minutes. It feels like it would be much longer. In a good way, just in the amount of stuff that he covers. It was so tight. Basically, the conceit of the episode is just, hey, here's a dumb controller that doesn't work, and I'm gonna show you a whole bunch of games of it not working in various stupid ways. It's hilarious to see all these games and, like, why anybody thought this, like, controller was fit to sell. You could tell that, like, the entire thing was mostly improv, but I feel like unlike today, James back then could carry a whole episode with just improv. The object that he's showing off is so ridiculous that it doesn't matter. And that's another hidden talent of James, especially back then, is he was amazing at getting B-roll. He was the king. He was the best at getting B-roll because he had all of this like film knowledge, and he was intimately like familiar with how to use his camera and stuff. So he gets great coverage of the Power Glove. He has great usage of like both direct game capture, showing like a CRT screen from different ways, like showing him using the glove in different ways. The use of NES music and sound effects throughout this video kind of makes the whole thing. I don't know why he stopped doing that. It's always like generic licensed music these days, and it never fits as well, you know? I love that he used his ancient dial TV. It adds to the ambiance of just like this obsolete piece of crap. Even just little things, like when he shows a CRT shot and he shows game capture, it's always perfectly synced up. It's always like he's doing the thing in IRL and it shows like the screen, and then it'll cut to the gameplay capture and it'll be like exactly, it'll continue on exactly from where he was, and that's not the most obvious thing to get right. You know, you could cut to a completely different thing. Like, that'd be easier. It takes quite a bit of effort to completely sync it up and keep the, you know, the continuity between the two shots. Like, he's thinking about continuity with his on-camera shots and his in-game shots in a way that even I don't, really. He spends like 10 to 20 seconds per game. He like just hammers home, like, this is what happened when I played this game. Then he quickly just move on to the next one. It's like YouTube and the Angry Video Game Nerd, and just look at me. Look at this video where I'm just fucking bumbling and rambling on. Everything is so bloated these days. It's like, because we're aiming for the second monitor and the watch time and all that. There's no market in putting out a 12-minute, just really cut down, trimmed Power Glove video anymore. I love the visual of him using the Power Glove to drink the Rolling Rock. That's good stuff. The reveal, like, you could see it if you're paying attention. There's all these buttons on the thing, but like the reveal that you could just use it like a normal controller, that's really funny. There's a lot of just incredibly funny stuff in this video. And the Top Gun part is hilarious, that he could not land the plane with a controller, but he can land it with the Power Glove. It's 100% kayfabe. Like, obviously that's not what really happened when he played with the Power Glove. But again, it's a character, and the goal is to make these things entertaining. It's not necessarily like his direct experience. So like it might like stem from truth, the things that he's saying, but everything's like exaggerated in his videos. Then we have Chronologically Confused, which I have fond memories of. And this is another definition of pioneering, because this basically like invents its own genre of video, like guy voiceover just nitpicking, like just complaining about like the pedanticies of like odd releases and odd names and stuff. He might have invented this. I don't know if he invented this, but it's like the first example I can think of this, and I feel like there's just entire genres of YouTube that are basically just this now. It's entirely voiceover. The video was ahead of its time, really. And it was educational for me. Like, I didn't know any of this stuff. Most of this one's about movies, and it's the first time him being more of like a movie fan than a video game fan is overt. This was before Monster Madness and before he was doing like more personal style vlogs or whatever the fuck you want to call them, where he's talking as him, you know, everything he was doing was still gimmicked as the character when he made this. Here's Rocky, where in the title card, he's going up against Rocky. He's fighting Rocky. He's not controlling Rocky. He's not Rocky's friend. This episode's cool, and it's weird that there's no, like, definitive version because both versions kind of have their pros and cons. This is the episode, I think, which changed by far the most between Screw Attack cuts and like elsewhere YouTube cuts, the cut that you can see now. It's the first angry video game nerd episode. Before this, it was all the angry Nintendo nerd. And funny story, like when I first discovered these videos, I discovered the angry Nintendo nerd first. It was after like 60 something episodes had already been made. I was late to the party, I know. When I discovered him, I discovered the Nintendo nerd first. And I would see that there were also these things called the Angry Video Game Nerd, and I thought that was like a ripoff. I didn't realize it was the same guy. So I avoided those episodes for a while because I thought they were just somebody copying the Angry Nintendo Nerd, and I didn't want to support that, but eventually I clicked on it and realized, oh, it's the same guy, he just changed the name. Okay, that's funny. This one has a lot of differences between the two versions, the most obvious being that it removed all movie clips. It also completely reframes the whole conceit of the video, because in the original cut, it starts with him playing all of the Rocky movies on different like TVs and projectors in his apartment, and saying, I'm frickin' psyched for Rocky 6, even though they're not calling it Rocky 6, they're calling it Rocky Balboa. So then he gets to chronologically complain more about Rocky, and that's fun. But the conceit is, oh, I'm waiting to go see the movie. Let's play this game to pass the time. That framing was cut out entirely of the modern edition, but the modern edition has him running up the Rocky steps at the end and throwing the game down. And that's a really cool addition. I like that. They also cut out this shot of him behind the back, like he's looking back at the camera. You can hear the CRTs hum if you put on headphones, which I'm guilty of doing that too. Where he's playing the game blind, he's like, look, the game's just a button masher, and then he hits buttons, and then he's like, look, I knocked him down too. This whole scene got cut out of the YouTube version, and I don't know why. Were they really that worried about the movie footage playing for a few seconds just in the background? Then another huge change is the montage at the end of him training for the fight in the game gets cut down considerably, and then it never resolves. He just runs up the Rocky steps and throws the game down. If you're following like the story, the plot line of the video, right? He's going up against the fighters in the game, and he can't beat one of them, so he's training to fight him, but ultimately in the original video, he fails and he can't do it. But again, they just like cut the entire thing out of the YouTube one, so it doesn't make any sense anymore. I'd rather eat raw eggs. If you remember him saying that in this video, it's only in the Screw Attack cut. All that being said, I don't think it's a great review. I don't think it's a pioneer. I think it's fine. The standards have been raised by this point that I can't give this a smiley face. Like after he's made this trilogy of just awesome videos, going back to a more basic thing, even though I do think it's a better watch than a Double Dragon or a McKids or a Roger Rabbit, it's weird. And like the edits he made to it definitely like make it not as good. Then we have the legendary Bible Games episode, which I think used to be my favorite. I don't know if it is anymore. Obviously, this is going in Cinemaster Gold. They didn't make a title card for this one. It's just the thumbnail they use now. That's the only thing I got. It's awesome that he got Kyle to record a new song for this, and it's absurd that these games exist. Remember when I was talking about how you need to pick good games to give you good material? This is the quintessential example of that, and he picked some awesome games. It was educational for me as well, because I didn't know about any of them. It's the last episode he would upload to YouTube first before the long game trailers era, and it's the last episode in this apartment. According to his Cinemaster.com, he moved because he was leaving his job, which I assume is the horrible one he describes in his book, if you've read that. These games are all like shooting fish in a barrel. They're just very funny, and he finds some really funny things to talk about, like the play-by-play of the squirrel knocking itself out with the acorn is legendary. It's some of the funniest stuff he's ever done. It's really just a bunch of smaller episodes all smashed together, but it makes the product so much greater when he just combines all of these smaller game reviews into one big video. Like, this format really does work well, because you can make your jokes, and then you can do your thing, and then you can just quickly move on to the next thing. Like, he spends a lot of time on Bible adventures, because he's got a lot of stuff to say about Bible adventures. He's got squirrels to narrate. He uses the baby choking joke for a second time, but then he apologizes, which makes it even funnier. Like, even this vulgar character has standards of some kind. I love his behind the TV shot, which only works with like a giant big old TV like that. I like how in this apartment, he never settled on one set camera position. There's not like one iconic couch shot here. He's always moving the camera around. It's also the first appearance of his incredibly photogenic Super Nintendo with a Super Noah's Ark 3D. Another really funny thing which exists. I love even little things like him throwing the NES controller on top of the TV, perfectly so it's in frame. I wonder how many takes that took. If I had to do that and then also say my lines, it would take me probably like 100 tries. Then we have Ninja Turtles 3, which really shouldn't count, but it is in the official episode list, so it does count. It begins with a text which says the angry movie nerd, and not only that, but it's split into 2 parts, so this counts as 2 official episodes. Episodes 18 and 19 are the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 movie review. Definitely Cinemassacre Gold collection material. He's not on camera much in this one, so you would have to really look for it. But this is the new Nerd Room. He's not in the iconic Nerd Room yet. This is like the transitionary one that he would have through this one up until episode 50, Superman. I wonder if he thought he was going to do a whole bunch of movie reviews in character, which is why he had the branding the Angry Movie Nerd, but then it just got like adopted into the whole Angry Video Game Nerd episode canon. I'm not sure how that happened, if he planned on having more movie nerd ones. This is before he discovered that he didn't have to be in character in every video. Like, he could just be himself and talk about movies, rendering, you know, this kind of silly. This one doesn't have the theme song because he's not talking about video games, I guess. Obviously, the big difference between versions on this one is the YouTube one just has still frames and the original uses clips from the movie. This review really does lose a lot without the clips, but it still holds up. He absolutely tears this movie a new one. He was the perfect age to hyperfixate on what and be incredibly hyped for what this movie was going to be. And he has an awesome retelling of what it was like to just be really anticipating this movie and to love Ninja Turtles. Like, he was the perfect age where like Ninja Turtles took over his whole life and he loved it. It gives him a great excuse to play with all the toys and get good shots of those. This was like his first experience of being truly let down by a piece of media, and he does an amazing job of explaining why. Honestly, I think this is one of the best movie teardowns I've ever seen. It's up there with like the Plinkett reviews of the Star Wars prequels. He uses the fake multiple choice quiz, which is a classic. I've done that trick before. See, when he talks about games, when he does a game review, it's mostly just him like dicking around and making nitpicks and just like general, like just kind of small complaints like, what is this nonsense? Instead of like really engaging with the game and seeing if it doesn't work once you get used to all of the jank. He's just complaining about the jank. But with this review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, he gives a really concise analysis of like why this movie doesn't tick. And there's some really funny moments and lines, like when he uses the sock to represent them talking in those suits. Is this movie for little kids? Well, I guess it is. Him doing the top 10 worst lines it's a great like talk show bit. And then in the end, he's so disappointed. He hates the movie so much that he slashes the VHS tape with a samurai sword. That's cool as fuck. So I had to go do something. It's a few hours later, and now looking at this list with fresh eyes, it is obvious to me that I mistiered all 3 of these videos. They belong in the pioneering tier because I want to put a few videos coming up, and these 3 videos just aren't on the same level as those. Atari 5200's a fun one. It's famously the console video where he doesn't play any games. And watching it back, it's kind of just him playing with his new apartment and like his new game setup in the new nerd room. Because at his old place, he shows off in the Rocky video, we see basically his whole apartment. It had a whole bunch of little smaller stations with different things set up. Whereas in this new house, he's trying to have everything all hooked up at once into the TV. And the episodes would become localized to just this room for the most part. Sometimes he would use other locations, but usually until he moves into the more iconic nerd room, this space is it. He basically made this room his own set, whereas before he would use the entire apartment. I like to imagine that this video was influenced by real experiences he had trying to hook up all of these game systems to this TV, since it was the first time he was doing it. I believe this is also the first one where he's working on AVGN as his primary job. If I'm following this right, according to the book, I think he still continued to freelance for a bit longer, but AVGN, he's getting paid to make these episodes for game trailers now. He doesn't disclose how much, but I imagine it was the equivalent of like a normal job. And yeah, this was the first episode to air on game trailers exclusively first, and it was there for a year and a half before it made its way to YouTube. And you can tell he's taking it more seriously. There's no more shitted out, like voice only over AVGNs like there was before. From here on out, everything is going to have some baseline standard production quality. And covering the 5200 was worthwhile, for me anyway, and in the early days of YouTube and internet retro gaming or whatever. Basically, if he just covers anything a little off the wall, it was educational. At least it was to me. I had never heard of this system before. I only knew the classic Atari, and I think I saw the redesign too somewhere as a kid, but I never knew that they tried to make other systems that failed too. Of course, famously, he couldn't get it to work and he couldn't play any of the games. It's only about 10 minutes long, and this is, in function, looking at it in retrospect, it would be an incredible intro to a longer, larger episode where he actually does cover the system in earnest. But as it stands, it's just the intro to an episode you never followed up on. And I love this episode, though, by the way. I think this episode's awesome. I'm gonna put it in the fake smiling AVGN face tier. I think this episode is great, even though he doesn't play any games. And as far as like inspiring me, all of the intros to my videos where I look at game consoles definitely owe a great deal to this episode in specific of AVGN. You know what? I've gushed about this episode so much, I have to put it in gold collection. This episode rules. It's one of my favorites. Why am I bumping it down a tier if it's one of my favorites? Then it's Ghostbusters, or should I say, Ghostbusters! This is an NES game I had as a kid, so it was really cathartic seeing somebody actually explain how the game worked, because I sure as heck never figured it out. This was released in 3 parts and is officially considered 3 different episodes, even though when you combine them all together, it's only about 40 minutes long, so it's like one modern episode. Even though he doesn't quite reach that these days, but it's like one modern YouTube video if you squish them all together. I'm counting them all as one. The multi-part episodes, I'm counting all of them as just one episode. I would say that part 1 is definitely the strongest on a rewatch. 2 and 3 are more fine territory than they are iconic territory. As a totality, this is one of the best just eviscerations of a game he's ever done. And he's right too, because Ghostbusters on NES was an amazing game to base an AVGN episode around, because it gives you so much material. It is such a funny game that exists, from premise to just visuals. Everything about it is hilarious. The fact that you need to mash the A button to go up the stairs, and he always plays the mashing sound. He has this like Foley sound of him mashing the button on the controller. And anytime he shows the staircase on, like, gameplay of the staircase on screen, he plays the, like, button mashing sound. It's like, mwah, that's so good. That's such a good fucking instinct to do that. You can tell that he really cared about Ghostbusters, and it gives him an excuse to play with all of his Ghostbusters toys to explain how big a deal Ghostbusters was in the 80s. The ghost vacuum call where he's talking to Kyle on the phone, and the fucking face he makes when he says he wants a vacuum to catch ghosts. And it's a crescendo too. Like, it starts with him just explaining how the game works, and then progressively getting angrier as the episode goes on. And that's how all the great ones are. You have 2 iconic memes coming out of just part 1 alone, that you pop this piece of crap in and what do you get? And that's right, we're gonna cheat. And that's all just in part 1. In part 2, he's more detailed, but it covers much of the same ground. Sort of like explaining the joke, but it's going into like everything he says in more detail. I like how he filmed the CRT directly to get the Atari footage, making it look extra shitty. Then in part 3, he covers Ghostbusters 2 and the Sega one, but those games are nowhere near as interesting, meaning that part 3 is nowhere near as interesting. I think it's the first time he ever does, oh, it's a good game for once. Like, what? I actually like a game? That's crazy. He would go on to do that many, many times, but I think this is the first. Holy shit! It's Spider-Man! This episode, objectively, is probably a fine tier, but I love it so much, I'm gonna put it in the smiley face one, because it has so many lines that I still quote all of the fucking time. like local brew. Like whenever I'm talking about anything that's like not a chain, like don't go to the chain place, do the whatever the other place is, I always call it local brew because of this episode. It's so much fun. You can tell that the whole episode was just improv. It was just him and Kyle goofing around. But at this time, James is still charismatic enough, and the energy is still really good and really high that you can still get a great episode out of that. It's not a great critique of any of the games they look at because of that, but they're just messing around. That's really not the point. And I do think it is a bit of a shame that they don't go in on that NES game because it is way worse than it looks, but they kind of just, they play the game and they riff on it. But that's fine. Riffing's fun sometimes. Spider-Man crawling on the ceiling is a fun effect. They just turn the posters upside down and then the footage is upside down, so it looks like he's upside down. Sega CD is probably the episode in which my opinion differed the most from what I thought before I rewatched it to what I think now, because I thought this was going to be a lock for the gold collection. Like, I think of Classic Angry Video Game Nerd, and I think of like the Sega CD episode as being quintessential. But watching it back, it's kind of basic. He doesn't really talk about much of anything, really. He doesn't really talk about the games that much in this one. And it isn't as much fun as the Atari 5200 and like trying to get the system to work. But also at the same time, this was educational to me because I had seen Sega CD before this. Like, I had seen it, but I didn't understand what it was. I just kind of would like randomly see like I can think of one Genesis in particular that I knew some other friend had, that it had this like weird attachment on it that mine didn't have. And I just didn't know what that was about. I'm like, oh, that's weird. It's like a Genesis, but it's also a CD player or something. But this explained, oh no, it was actually like another game system and these are all the games for it. Oh, this is the first and only time we ever see the full AVGN theme song, so that's fun. Which makes this episode kind of suffer in retrospect, because it's 12 minutes long and 3 of them are the full theme song. The full theme song is cool, but I don't know. I think it takes away from this as an episode. It has the commercial parody, that's a fun bit, as opposed to a video that isn't in full motion. And then, how would you like it if I did the whole review like this? Rather it be full fucking screen. Like, there's some good moments in this, no doubt. I just wish there was a bit more. I don't think it's on par with his best, but I do think it's a very good video. Then, of course, naturally, he follows it up with 32X, and I think it would feel wrong to separate these two in the tier list, because they basically are like part 1 and part 2 of the same thing. It's just going over Sega's failures at the time. This, of course, has the "we exist in the year 2007" and the whole power adapters rant. I love the bit where he put himself into Virtua Fighter. Like, what do these characters have problems? I do think that this episode is weaker than the CD one, just because talking about these 32X games, they're just regular games. You can't make fun of them as easily as you can make fun of those FMV games. Like, talking back to Eddie and Double Switch is funnier than, I don't know, doing the pissing in Primal Rage. Then at the end, him shooting it with a bow and arrow, in retrospect, is really out of place for the Angry Video Game Nerd. Like, he would destroy games, and he still hasn't actually destroyed any games yet. He destroyed a whole system before he destroyed any games. When I think of James Rolfe, I don't think of like an outdoorsman going outside and hitting things with a bow and arrow. It's a unique destruction that he wouldn't do anything really like that again, at least until like Amiga CD32, I guess. Silver Surfer is the definition of fine. It's entertaining enough. There's like nothing special about the episode itself. It's just him complaining about how hard this game is, which apparently isn't even that hard. It's like normal to below normal difficulty for a shmup. It's just that shmups, you gotta play the stages over and over again so you memorize what's gonna happen, and he wasn't willing to do that. It's also known as the orange episode because, as he said later, he forgot to color correct it. The highlight of the video is probably him reproducing the Silver Surfer pose himself, or the any area inside these lines is a dead zone. That whole bit's stupid because it's not like the obstacles are always there. That's the game, James. You need to avoid those areas when there's something there. Die Hard's fun. I think this is a slightly stronger episode than Silver Surfer, but I don't think it's on the level of like a Spider-Man or a Sega CD or a Sega 32X or whatever. I'm gonna start putting them over here. This episode, much like Silver Surfer, it's really simple. It's just a game. Most of it's voiceover, except for the ending, and that's why it's better. This game's slightly more memorable. Got more memorable cover art. Like, what does this remind you of? And it shows you the cover. That's pretty funny. Now we're talking about the 5th floor. Just him trying to explain the game incorrectly correctly, by the way. Like, he gets everything about how this game works wrong. Him just trying to explain the game and going through his experience of it. It's interesting because the game is more interesting than Silver Surfer, but that might just be because I hate shmups, so I'm not interested in hearing somebody talk about shmups. And then the ending where he's making stuff blow up and he's going to war with Die Hard and he's got all the shit on his face. That's fun, but I don't know if that elevates it to a smiley face for me. I think it's good where it is. Then Independence Day. The fucking Mike Matake title card is better than the episode because he really phoned this one in. Also, like, you gotta pick a good game to give you good material with, and he didn't with this. It's a really short episode, too. Like, the episode's 6 minutes long, which feels really out of place in 2007 because it's the only time he really phoned it in. This feels like him going back to, like, a Wally Bear or a Double Dragon 3 style review where it's just kind of short and he doesn't have that much to say, but the game is just so not interesting that this episode I pretty much always skip when I go back to. There's like no memorable jokes either. It's honestly, this might be the first like truly bad episode. If I had a tier below what was he thinking? Oh, there's one good joke. This is the one where he's like, now if you get a piece of ass, that's good, but if you get a piece of shit, you don't want that. That's from this video. So, I you get something. Even in his worst videos, you get one thing. Then Bart versus the Space Mutants, or just Simpsons in general, I guess, going by the title card. He does Bart versus the World too, which is weird that he only covers 2 out of the 3 Simpsons games. Of course, he would rectify that many years later. He's in a bit of a rut with these episodes. Like, the last few I haven't been a big fan of. And the Simpsons one is another one that I remembered liking more than I actually did on a rewatch. There's not a lot of great jokes. You can tell when James is covering properties that he was a huge fan of as a kid and that he loved. And the Simpsons was not one of those properties at all. Like, I'm sure he's seen a few episodes, but at the same time, it clearly wasn't his thing like Ghostbusters or Ninja Turtles was, because there's no passion in the way. He doesn't like go over a history of the Simpsons. He doesn't play with his Simpsons toys. It's just kind of like a by the numbers, like, oh yeah, here's this game, and it's not that good. It's also like these games aren't that interesting either. I don't think this video's bad, but I think it's far from his best work. Speaking of, if I were to put this anywhere else other than the gold collection, I am a filthy fucking liar, because Bugs Bunny's Birthday Blowout is like the most iconic episode of the whole show almost. It might be number 1. This is the one where he fights Bugs Bunny, and that's all it's gonna be known as, and it's amazing how well that spices it up. Like, if in the Simpsons episode, the game review portions were exactly the same, but he has to beat up like Marge or something, it would save the whole episode. James is really good at filming action. Like, he's really good at just like, okay, now we're gonna fight. You know how many like awkward fight scenes I've seen in YouTube game reviews? And James is head and shoulders because of his like, he spent his whole teenage years and his whole like film school years filming fight scenes and stuff, that he just does an amazing job of it. Like, him versus Bugs Bunny, like him making like a live action cartoon. It's really fucking funny. Like, when he kicks him through the boxes, it's awesome. Like, why he just did that just to get like a dramatic shot, but it's so funny. And then of course he craps on his face and then sticks his middle finger through the fake butt. The shot of like the crap on Bugs Bunny is just, it's perfect. This one shot of Bugs Bunny getting crapped on, I think it's the best poop joke he's ever done. Atari porn is amazing because it's hilarious that these games exist. James barely needs to do any work in this episode. He just needs to point to these fucking games and say, look at how stupid it is that they would think to make porn on Atari. Like, how do you get off on Atari graphics? You can't. It's fucking impossible. But that didn't stop them from trying, and it's hilarious to see them try. Another episode that was educational for me because, like, I had no idea that these games existed. And look at the title card. Like, this is the funniest fucking drawing Mike has ever done. It's just everything about it, it's really fucking funny. Just the idea that there's Atari porn. It's still funny now, the fact that these fucking games exist. So he just needs to point at these games and how ridiculous it is that they exist. The cold open with him very dryly giving a history lesson about this General Custer guy. Who the fuck is this guy and why do we care? Him transitioning to the reveal that he got an Atari game based on him. It's just everything about this episode is hilarious. And then years later, he made Atari Pork, which is like a send up of the fake censorship that they do on like TV. Not fake censorship, but you know how like they would censor movies when they air on TV. Just the idea of censoring the uncensorable in this episode. So he just like redubs over half the video to make it so it's not pornographic. It's really funny. I think that that's one of the best things he's done in the 2020s is him dubbing over Atari porn. Nintendo Power, yeah, this is a good ass episode. It's not funny. I can't think of a single part in this episode which made me laugh. It's a great retrospective on Nintendo Power. You did a great job at that. I was a Nintendo Power kid, but of course I grew up in the 2000s, so like I had Nintendo Power all through that era up until it, from like 2004 up until it went out of business in like 2011. That was my era of Nintendo Power. I was subscribed all through that. So it was cool seeing the magazine back in the 80s and 90s when he had it. And of course, this is like the era that people are more nostalgic for. I guess more people had it back then, and it's all shot very well. Like, he has an awesome camera, which is able to get the detail, even in standard def, to actually do these parts in the magazine justice. And, you know, he knows his lighting. Like, he can get the shit to look good. I like how it's an excuse to check back in on a bunch of games that he's already reviewed. Like, oh, what did Nintendo Power say about Back to the Future? Oh, that's funny. Of course, Kyle does a cover song in this, which is always fun to see. It's a unique episode because even the Atari 5200 one, even though he doesn't play any games, that had game footage. This one has no game footage at all. So yeah, I don't think this is quite Gold Collection, but this is definitely a smiley face for me. Fester's Quest is a really solid video. This episode is him showcasing that he was on a whole other level in terms of like shooting these videos. The camera work is incredible. Him dressing up as all of the different Addams Family members is really funny. I wish I was half as talented with a camera as James is. The whole sequence with the train in the game, it's just so well done. This is another smiley face for me. Like, it's not a quintessential viewing, but it's still pretty damn good. And then I like how he throws on the other game. Like, he clearly like reviewed the NES Fester's Quest, and then he just tacks on that other Addams Family game on at the end, just because probably he had some extra time or the runtime was short or something. And then he gets Kyle to sing another song, which it's always fun to see that, right? It's always fun to see that. I thought that the joke where he goes, "This game is ass," and then he uses graphics from the game to show that was really funny, especially when I was a kid. Next episode is Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and holy shit, he couldn't miss. He was on fucking fire. This is another Gold Collection easy banger. Like, this is some of the best shit he's ever done. Whenever he uses a Halloween episode as an excuse to make like a short horror film, it's always amazing. The old guy is what fucking makes this one. Like, he goes to the fucking yard sale and he's buying the Atari games for what seemed like an obscene amount of money back then. Like, yeah, it's $100. Like, that fucking guy, like, the idea of paying $100 for an Atari game was just very silly back then, but I guess you had to if you had to get these games. These days, it's like half the fucking games you want are more than $100. But that old guy, man, he's so fucking funny. I love the deleted scenes too. If you get a chance, look at the deleted scenes for this episode. Like, that old guy was on fucking fire. He was just riffing, and there was a lot of stuff that they had to leave on the cutting room floor for this episode. Mike is great as like the obsessed fan in this too. It's James like poking fun at probably all of the repetitive messages that he gets, because if I think I get asked the same questions over and over again, I can only imagine how bad it was for James, because holy shit. This is just his way of just like making fun of people who were, I don't know, like, people might say that it's in poor taste that he would represent his fans, like his audience, as this fucking guy taking a lighter up to a coat hanger. Like, it's just really funny shit. And then the games themselves, much like the Atari porn video, but a little less scandalous, it's really funny that there's an Atari Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. And that he gets stuck on fucking bikes in the game, so that's how the episode ends, with Leatherface chasing him and getting stuck on a bike. That's great. That's just like the game coming around. He made it all like grainy and like the frame rate's worse in this video to like make it the same as Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I guess. And he loved the season so much that he did it twice. He did it again. He did both of these in 1 year. I couldn't believe that these episodes were back to back. I remembered them being as like, this was Halloween Special 07 and then like Halloween was Halloween Special 08. But no, he did them both in the same month and they're both fucking awesome. This is the one with the kids, which those kids are probably probably like in their 20s now, and that's pretty funny to think about, but that's the one where he's got to go babysit. So he plays Halloween, hates it, gives it to some kids, then he plays like another game. Like this episode is a fucking story. That's crazy that some of these episodes actually have like a loose plot that like makes sense. It's just a lot of fun seeing him interact with other people because you almost never see him do it. And him interacting with these kids is just really funny. And then we go back down a little bit. Dragon's Lair is basically just him making fun of the first screen of the game, which is, you know, disappointing that he stopped there because he left so much on the table. But the material he was able to get out of just one screen of this fucking game, just the first screen of Dragon's Lair on NES, the fact that he's able to stretch that out into a full video and have it actually be funny and like you're with him and it really does go through the whole process of like just figuring out this one fucking screen. I think he kind of spins straw into not gold, but like into copper. He's like he barely covers this game at all, but it's still funny. I think this is better than fine. I think this is like a smiley face episode. Clearly like one that he put the least amount of effort into, but I think it's entertaining nonetheless. Next up was Christmas Carol, which was released in 2 parts, but I'm only gonna count it as 1, as per tradition in this. It's fun seeing Handsome Tom and Stuttering Craig playing the ghosts of Christmas past and present. This must have been just before Handsome Tom split or got fired or screwed out of ownership, however you want to look at that situation. It's a lot of fun seeing Old Nerd, like when he's got the gray hair. If only he predicted the balding. No, he thought he was just going gray. You poor naive fool. I don't think this episode is as iconic as Bible Games, but it's still fairly strong, I want to say. It's definitely better than fine, and I don't think it counts as a pioneer, so we're gonna put it in the smiley face. But I don't think any of the segments in this are as memorable as a segment in like Bible Games. Like none of them are as exciting as Bible Adventures is what I'm trying to say. Like he even reviews Shaq Fu, which is like a known like one of the worst games ever or whatever, but like his review is not anything special, mostly because Shaq Fu is just not that interesting. Like it's a funny name for a game, which he points out. He's like, yeah, it just proves you could put Fu in front of anything. Next release was Chronologically Confused About Zelda, and it is funny that this, like, that's the direction he went for a follow-up to just his regular Chronologically Confused. Of course, this has the intro at the beginning where he claims that this episode is actually from 2006 and he made it right after Chronologically Confused. And yeah, I believe it. You can definitely tell. The entire thing's voiceover, like it's not really that well done. It's certainly a pioneering episode, and again, it was educational for me because this is just when I was getting into like Zelda as a series as a whole. So like I don't even think I knew the names of all the games yet, even though I had played through a few of them. So even just like learning about each of the Zelda games and what the stories were in them. But no, this is like a pioneering video. It was like it was like shining light on the whole Zelda timeline debate, which of course Nintendo would make an official timeline later, which is crazy. Then we have Rambo, which I only wrote one thing in my notes, which is this just makes the game look interesting. This episode's fine. I don't dislike it or anything, but it's, you know, it's just a basic look at a game that, again, it's a little interesting that it's kind of a clone of Zelda 2. And the bit where he's like, oh, what did he think she was gonna say? You look like a hairless gorilla or whatever the fuck that line is. Like, that's pretty funny. Again, you can tell when it's a property that James is really passionate about, which he is with Rocky, and then with Rambo, he's not as passionate, clearly, as he was about Rocky. Virtual Boy, this one's a lot of fun. I think this is the best console episode so far because he actually reviews every game. And I didn't pick these games, this is all of them, that's awesome. Of course, the original didn't include Jack Bros, but then when he got Jack Bros, he inserted that part into re-releases of the episode, which, you know, is fine. It kind of breaks the flow a little bit that he's just like coming in, he's like, oh, well, I have Jack Bros now, so let's talk about it. It's funny that Jack Bros would become much more famous than, it probably would become the most famous Virtual Boy game because it's connected to the SMT series. But back when he covered this, like, nobody gave a shit about SMT yet. Like, Persona 5 hadn't come out, so like, nobody cared. It wasn't cool yet. Recording through the eyepiece, he's got to be the only person who has usable footage usable in quotes because it looks really bad. And he even apologizes for it in the video about how bad it looks. But like just props the fact that he's using real footage of a Virtual Boy to showcase these games. He also misuses irony when he's talking about Ocean presenting Waterworld. That's a coincidence, that's not irony. Obviously in re-releases he had to take out the clip, "It does look like shit," when I'm assuming that's from Waterworld, I don't know, I've never seen the movie. But like he photoshopped in a Virtual Boy to what he's looking at, whatever the fuck he's looking at in the movie. He's looking at a Virtual Boy now and he goes, "I'm on the fence with this one. I could give it a smiley face or I could give it Gold Collection. Am I feeling generous?" You know what? I think it's better than like Dragon's Lair. I think it's better than the Sega CD's 32X episodes. I think it's going in Gold Collection. Might be the most dubious entry in there so far, but I still love this episode, so Gold Collection it goes. The Wizard of Oz, hell yeah. This is the same deal as Bugs Bunny. It's just Mike in like makeup and a dumb outfit, just being annoying. Like Mike's whole thing in this is just going, "It's me, it's the lion, it's the lion," and he's just doing that the whole time. Like the whole point of him is to be annoying, and it's really funny. It gives the video almost like a fucking villain, like a person you want to see get beat up. This is the first video to use fan renditions of the theme song, so that's cute. He would do that a whole bunch. But this is Super Nintendo, so it can't be that bad, right? Everyone always makes fun of James for mispronouncing things, but like, let's see you get on camera and try and pronounce all these fucking words. Like, you're gonna have some weird mispronunciations too. Like right there, I can't even fucking say the word. "Hey man, did you just swear?" I like the lion's quips in the background, like, "About fucking time. Yeah, you can go in there, what are you, fucking stupid?" This whole episode's a good vibe, and his grievance of falling through the platforms is extraordinarily funny as well. I feel like I'm being too generous with Gold Collection though, so I'm just gonna put it in the smiley face tier. I'm gonna put it over here. Double Vision. So even though this was two different episodes, there's one talking about the Intellivision, one talking about the ColecoVision. It only got one title card. I was gonna count this as two different episodes, but I guess I can count them as one. As a kid, I didn't know that this was a real song. I thought it was an AVGN original. No, but it's Kyle Justin doing a cover of like an old 70s song or something. Also, the episode starts with two songs. It doesn't just start with Double Vision, it starts with the AVGN theme as well. So like we're taking up a significant chunk of the runtime with these. These are interesting console look at videos, just seeing these primitive old pre-NES games. And there's some fun lines like, "Oh, trying to stick your dick in a Cheerio." I'm a sucker for these console videos. You just make one joke about each game and then you move on to the next one. It's really rapid fire, and I think it suits James well, it suits me well, it suits everyone well. I think it's just a great format for a video. You don't use a can of bug spray, you are a can of bug spray. I don't know why I've always loved that line. The bit where he's like, "Oh, I gotta find and then he starts looking at the controller. Fucking that pretty much encapsulates playing these game systems exactly. I think Intellivision is a much stronger episode than ColecoVision, though his beginning of that with the 2001 music and the ColecoVision AC adapter being the monolith is really creative and fun. And it's one of the rare cases where the YouTube version replacing the real 2001 music with like a shitty MIDI version kind of makes it funnier. Double Vision's obviously a very good episode, but I think it falls just short of the Gold Collection for me. Then we have Mario 3, which, you know, for an AVGN about Mario 3, it's like you see this and you think, fuck yeah, this is gonna be awesome. I've always been underwhelmed by this one. He almost doesn't even really talk about Mario 3. He spends more than half the video talking about the fucking wizard, the movie. And I get that it's like a double review. It's like, oh, I'm reviewing the movie and the game. Like the movie that everybody, like, I don't know, I'm too young to have heard about the fucking game from the wizard. Very creative that he used this as... He somehow found this as a way to have another fight scene. And no, it's not him like fighting Mike dressed up as Mario or something. He's fighting the cartridge itself. And obviously, like, the effects at the end and bringing in Super Mecha Death Christ and stuff, like, it's all very impressive, and I could tell it was very time-consuming and laborious stuff. However, I don't know, this episode's just not that funny to me. It's just fine. He didn't have much to say about Mario 3, or even, like, really the wizard for that matter. No. You know what? No, fine is too mean. We're gonna put it in pioneering tier, because most of this is just, like, world building and character work. That's the way I'm gonna classify this episode. And this raises the bar of like effects that you could expect to see in these videos. So yeah, we'll give it pioneering tier. I also noticed that he played through Mario 3 in 2-player mode, so I'm assuming Mike played it with him and they played it together, because Luigi is in a significant chunk of the footage. But he still has his fastball, because NES Accessories is one of the greatest episodes in the entire show. This is maybe the easiest Gold Collection edition so far. It's just fucking awesome. And it really plays to James' strengths too. Like he gets to showcase his camera work and a whole bunch of these wacky like IRL products he gets to put in front of the camera. And he's at his best when he needs to find creative ways to shoot stuff. And this episode has the most amount of stuff for him to shoot. It's really funny that most of these things exist. I had never heard of most of them. Recently, James put out this unreleased Miracle piano video that he tried doing in 2006. And it was fun seeing that recently and then realizing that he actually reused a lot of the material he came up with that in this, where he's covering the Miracle piano in that segment. Like, yeah, I'm shooting ducks with the piano. That's a lot of fun. Rollin' Rock on the Rollin' Rocker. Yeah, Rollin' Rocker. The funniest part of the video's gotta be the laser scope, where he's going, fire, 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 fire. And then him breaking away to read the pamphlet that's like, oh, they'll love what they won't hear. Meanwhile, you're going, fire, fire. Said fuck, not fire. Just shot that a duck by saying fuck. He says in the sentence, and I always thought it was fun that he kept that in. I really like the effect he does on his hands when he's talking about the power field on the U-Force. I love that you can see the reflection of the game in the TV, in the U-Force. Man, he was so fucking good. And then you can see him when he's punching in Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. That's awesome. The way that he's using the fucking reflection in the U-Force to frame his goddamn shots. The guy's a fucking genius. Yeah, this is like the king of all AVGN episodes. If you're only gonna watch one AVGN episode, I think this is it. I think this is the number one. Like, if I had to do a concrete ranking, like what is my favorite, I think it's this one. This has got to be the best. Indiana Jones. I think this is a strong episode, but I don't think it's like that strong. I think it's definitely better than fine. It's not really a pioneer. I think the Atari game in particular gives him a lot of material to work with, because it's strange seeing this really obtuse adventure game on Atari. So him just explaining how the game works and going through it is an interesting time. I really like the sequence where he's like, that's a lot of faith you put in a gamer to realize that's a merchant, this is a bag of gold, and that's a flute and use it to keep snakes away. I love this behind the controller shot with the TV visible. I love the shot of him swapping out the games from the system that's from behind the Nintendo. That's great. I don't even know how he did this shot, because if you see the camera he was using for these episodes, it's fucking huge, so he couldn't have fitted in like the little cubby hole his Nintendo was. So he would have had to have pulled that away from the wall just to get this shot. This episode is the first instance of him saying a where the fuck do I go kind of game. This is a strong episode. It's shot really well. The games are interesting. However, I don't think it's gold material. It's going in the smiley face. Very strong smiley face though. Next was Star Trek, and I always thought this episode was kind of awkward. Like, I was giving him praise earlier for how well done the Bugs Bunny fighting was. I always thought the fighting in this one was kind of awkward. Now, that might be intentional. I'm not a Star Trek guy, so like maybe he was just mimicking the fights from Star Trek. They're like that. But I always just thought the fight in this one was weird. And also the 25th anniversary game he covers on NES just made the game look more interesting to me. Like, he didn't get over how shitty it is. All in all, I just don't think Star Trek gave him as good a material as Indiana Jones either. Like, nothing's as interesting as that Atari game in this. So it's going in fine. Episode 50 was Superman, and it's the last one filmed entirely in this location. I love the visual of him tossing the game out the window, something he can't do in the new house because, of course, the new nerd room is in the basement. This one's on a second story, so it's the last opportunity he had to do this. After defining what Superman is, cutting straight to the Atari game was pretty funny. I never noticed, but the first email he reads asking for Superman 64 has, "I want your babies, heart, heart, heart," as the subject. And it's impressive the number of different ways people contacted him to review Superman 64. There's screenshots from every social media at the time. Was he checking all of them? I praised this episode, but it's really not anything spectacular. It's just a couple of unremarkable games he talks about. This is fine. Then the main event, Superman 64. As someone who has finished this game, going back and looking at this episode with fresh eyes and seeing James make it approximately 3 minutes into the game is something else. The ring sections aren't even hard. What the fuck is he complaining about? I love the Commodore 64 fake out and the fucking face he makes. This episode has like half and half. The B-roll was filmed in the new nerd room, but the on-camera talking segments were in the old one. This one's got some fun quotes. The code card. Yeah, the code card. Cause I like ya a lot. Now don't take that too serious. Even though he barely covers any of the game is so ridiculous that all he really needs to do is point and laugh at it. And he does. So this is an entertaining episode. I think this one's more entertaining than the first Superman one. There's a rare nerd superimposed over the game in a green screen shot with him mirroring the punches. I wonder if he thought he was going to do more of this type of green screen when he moved in here. Because then he does it again, flying into the sun. We wouldn't see him do a ton of green screen until like, I don't know, the Rob episode. But he really doesn't kick that into high gear until the Slob era. I don't know. I don't think it's on the same level as any of these. It's not a pioneer. I think it's just going to go next to the original Superman episode for me. Next up, Batman, and I don't even need to discuss this one. It's obvious gold collection. This is one of the best episodes he's ever made. I don't think anyone would disagree that this is one of the greatest episodes of AVGN, if not the greatest episode of AVGN. This time, the nerd is dressed as the character instead of the character coming to him, sort of like what he did in Indiana Jones. Then again, he starts with a Commodore version. This would be taken out of the rotation of consoles eventually, probably because it's a pain in the ass to use, as he mentions. The Batman Forever rant is legendary, perhaps the greatest he's ever done, right up there with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one. And it's complemented with some awesome B-roll of the controller. When he's going on his tirade about the controls, it only works because of the great footage he gets. This is the first time the nerd jobs in a fight. He loses to the Joker and gets tied up to the couch. This was a two-parter, but I like to think of them as one episode. Part one is just the nerd as Batman reviewing Batman games, and then the Joker ties him up, and then all of the Mike Matei going, Betty, 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 whoa, like Mike Matei just doing his Mike Matei stuff. That's all in part two. And the drawn intro cards to part two are great. I don't know why it's him and Luigi, but hey, I guess he needed someone. It's pretty funny that the nerd is tied up, but like he can't actually be tied up because his arms have to be free to play the video game. So when it's time for him to like break away from the ropes, all he has to do is stand up because he's not actually tied down. They have some great timing gags too, such as this part where they're anticipating the nerd dying in Batman Return of the Joker, and it's just playing the sound off screen, and then he goes, ah, fuck. I like how the shooting for that was just like, okay, now just like lean in and like really expect me to die, and then I die, and then laugh. That was the direction for that shot. What was the Joker's end game? Like, why did he tie up the nerd? What was he gonna do when he ran out of Batman games? Because he couldn't have had that many. And then when the Joker puts the game inside the 32X, that game's not gonna play. It's all crooked. No, but seriously, you wanna know what the most difficult part of making game reviews online is? It's getting that stupid frickin' cartridge shot. Just like the shot of putting the game in the cartridge, that is so much more difficult than you would expect, because you don't think about it when you're putting a game in the system, but like you never actually hit it straight in. It's always just like you put it on the system and then it slides in, or you use two hands, like one to brace the system and then another one to put the game in. But just getting the clean shot of putting the game in with one hand, it's actually difficult. And whenever I need to do it, or whenever I want to do it, I never fucking need to do it, but whenever I want to do it, I swear it takes like a dozen or more tries. So just know, whenever you watch anybody, like unless people have better technique than me at this, if you're ever watching any game review online and you see them put the game like directly in the system, just know that represents the best of probably like 20 different takes. This is an early incarnation of the nerd room, pre-NES shelf in the corner. We get some good shots of the space during the fight, and it's fun seeing this room evolve over the years. We can actually see his NES games above the TV, and then moving it to its own standalone shelf would become a defining feature of the room. It's a great spot to put some scenes of your video, or like an intro, like you pull out the game out from the shelf and then he explains what the game is. Like that would be a go-to move for the nerd in future episodes. Then the exact opposite. Deadly Towers is What was he thinking tier. This episode sucks. This is the fan episode. Fans submitted in lines, and I say the lines. It's a good thing he put that disclaimer at the start of the video, or else this would stand out like a sore thumb. It's almost like he's excusing, like, hey, I know this video is not very good, and it's really disjointed, and it just sounds like me saying a bunch of generic shit, but that's because I am just saying a bunch of generic shit. An interesting experiment, but I usually skip this one going back through. Him trying the German line is probably the funniest part of the whole video. And of course, the whole thing is in voiceover because he's not gonna, like, act out skits that they send him in. Battletoads, the sequel to the Spider-Man episode from forever ago, where Kyle shows up and then they improv a whole bunch of stuff about the game. So if Spider-Man's a smiley face, I need to find at the very best. This is borderline what was he thinking. This episode's not great on a rewatch. It establishes some nerd lore, like Kyle living canonically behind the couch. That's a fun piece to the character. And I'm going back and I'm realizing that he establishes that Kyle lives behind the couch, but the couch is brand new. This is episode 2 with the couch. The couch is in Batman because the nerd like sort of gets tied up to it. And then Deadly Towers is completely voiceover. And then this one, it's the second fucking episode with the couch. And it's already like integrating that as like as a piece of the lore this quickly. It was a safe bet on James' part because he still has the same or at least a very similar couch to this day. I always find it funny when people in Cinemassacre Truth point out or comment that he doesn't even use the AVGN theme song anymore, when this episode in 2008 makes the same self-aware critique. So they barely get anywhere in the game. They don't really say anything that funny. This episode is just kind of lame. Dick Tracy, though, oh man, I love the Dick Tracy episode. And maybe it's just because I've never played the game, so like I'm with him on all of these complaints. I'm like, yeah, that is bullshit, James, where if I play the game, the magic might be lost, and I would realize it's not nearly as difficult as he's making it out to be. That's a running theme in a lot of these. This episode also has significant changes from the original cut and the one that you can see on YouTube. He went back in and he added a whole bunch of lines clarifying, I guess, common comments or complaints he got about the original episode. But I think they break up the flow of the video. I'm not really a fan of the added lines. Even if the bit about the health is interesting, he puts it like right as, like this is the nerd's greatest crescendo, where he starts out kind of mild, explaining what Dick Tracy is, explaining that he loved Dick Tracy as a kid, he dressed up as him or whatever for Halloween, as he gets like angrier and angrier, and then he just butts in cold audio from like, a year later probably when he recorded it, just inserts it in to like when he's progressively getting angrier and angrier. And it, I think on their own, the additions are fine, but they really hurt the video, IMHO. Him balancing the game on the armrest while still delivering his lines and staying still enough not to knock them over is genuinely impressive. The video itself, it's a good rundown of his experience playing the first mission, and he's such a great actor when he feels like it, or at least he's really, really good at getting angry. It doesn't work with everyone, but it works with him. And here's something I think a lot of people who do the angry reviewing thing don't get, and it's something that I'm not even that good at. You can't always be this angry. You gotta lead up to it. You gotta explain your grievances before you can just explode, or else it comes out of nowhere and it's off-putting. This episode, it's like boiling frogs. It's a slow burn, and the episode's not that long, but like the whole thing is just building to him getting angrier and angrier and angrier. And by the end of this episode, he is the angriest nerd you've ever heard. Like this, in the theme song, it's talking about this episode. The complaints start small, like not being able to shoot unarmed men, or not finding health power-ups, or getting shot at while driving. And then they just compound and escalate as he finds more annoying things, like solving the case, but the game still makes you go around and get all of these clues that you don't need because you already figured out who did it. And then by the end, as a result of all of this crap, he can't progress with the game, so he's mad. Is this episode art, or am I just a sucker for Dick? This is going in gold collection. Next was a Halloween episode, and I remembered this being one of the weaker ones, but that's why I actually went back and rewatched everything, because Dracula surprised me. There were a lot more lines in this video that I didn't remember came from this one. Like, don't know how to fuck something. Who calls Dracula my man? He bought Reebok pumps for a gag, which is rare. He's not the kind of guy who buys a prop just for something like that. That's more of a JonTron thing. Including the Sesame Street game in a Dracula video is fun on its face, but then the game itself actually has a really memorable thing where you either choose to walk or hop through the stage. So just pointing that out, that's a good find. And this video was the birth of Fred Fucks. I used to think that was the funniest fucking thing. And apparently he did too, because it would become a long running gag throughout the show. I don't think I'm quite ready to give this gold collection status, but definitely a smiley face. Stronger than I remembered. Frankenstein, however, suffers in comparison. He doesn't have as many good jokes, and the games as a whole are nowhere near as interesting as the Dracula ones. This episode's weird because it's like a pale improv episode, like when he brings Kyle on, but the pale is Frankenstein, or Frankenstein's monster, I'm sorry. Oh yeah, it's the monster, not the doctor or whatever. Or I mean, it's the doctor, not the monster. That's Frankenstein. Whoever, you get what I'm saying. Like, the monster can't talk back. He just goes, "Rrr, rrr." So like the first half of this episode where he's just bouncing off of that energy, I don't know. It's not the greatest stuff he's ever done. My favorite bit in this one isn't even like a bit he did. It's the music from the boss fights in this game is just really funny. It's super chaotic. So whenever he cuts to something with that music, it's like a whiplash. Then we have Hotel Mario. I'm just going to count the CDI episodes as one, as I've been doing. It's a three-parter. The first one, he talks about the history of the system and then talks about Hotel Mario. Then he does, I think, Zelda Wand of Gamelon in episode 2. And then 3 is a brief Phases of Evil and then Zelda's Adventure. These episodes, they were really influential for me. Like, I wouldn't have made my CDI video if it wasn't for these. They sparked my curiosity to find out what the fuck these games were. But I don't know, he's doing a big CDI blowout and he only talks about 4 games. I think that's kind of weak. His overview of the system, as usual, is incredible. He gets awesome shots. He does a great job of explaining what the CDI is. I am jealous that he was able to get so many controllers. And it's funny how both of us got the same version of the system and we both had the same problem with the front controller port. These are episodes where the humor comes naturally because he just has to point at the game and then the game is funny. But most of his Zelda review is just complaining about there only being 2 buttons that work on the controller, which is stupid, and I do talk about that in my CDI video, but I almost feel like you can't even hold that against the game. That's more of a system limitation. Anyway, I've made my thoughts about the CDI Zelda games well known. I think they're cool, and I think this episode is cool too. We're gonna give it a smiley face. Bible Games 2. This episode was shot in 720p widescreen for some reason, when the rest of these are 480p 4x3. And he wouldn't do this permanently. This wouldn't be a permanent change. It was just for Bible Games 2 for some reason. And yeah, this episode feels like scraps. The original Bible Games was an awesome idea. Like, for a Christmas themed episode, we're not going to go the like Christmas Santa route. We're going to go the religious route. And there's a lot of funny stuff I could talk about in there. But then Bible Games 2, it's like, he kind of already talked about all the funniest ones. Menace Beach has to be the most fun segment in 2. But other than that, there's just not anything great. I wonder why this episode's in HD, but all of the surrounding ones aren't. I wonder if it had something to do with his Panasonic HD camera kerfuffle that he explains in his camera video. Basically, he had this really awesome, like, digital early 2000s camera that was like thousands of dollars that he got in film school. And that's what he used to shoot all of these like standard definition AVGNs. But then they came out with an HD version of that same camera, so he figured it would be a natural upgrade. But there was something about buying the wrong memory cards or something, so he couldn't use the new camera. And he just had a bunch of like little grievances with it. So he never really liked the HD version of the same camera for some reason. I wonder if this is a part of that. Like, he bought the new camera, but he just found out that he didn't like using it, so he went back to using his old one. I wonder if something like that happened, and that's why this one's in HD, and then he goes back to standard definition 4x3. It's still a decent episode, though. We're going to give it a smile. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was the first episode of 2009, and believe it or not, it's the first episode I ever watched new. Yes, it took me this long. I guess I didn't discover how to watch new nerd episodes until 2009. Cut me a break. Like, my family didn't get the internet until like 2008. So I found AVGN, or actually I found Angry Nintendo Nerd, and I thought Angry Video Game Nerd was like a ripoff for the longest time. And it didn't help that you had to go off YouTube and find the episodes on another website. So it took me a while to like navigate that and find game trailers and find out that he's still posting these. And this isn't the best episode. It's okay. Him going crazy and destroying the room is a fun ending. I feel like there could have been much better jokes though in a video about Michael freaking Jackson. I mean, he just lends himself to ridicule. And I believe this is before he died as well. Let me double check that. Yeah, Michael Jackson would die in June of 2009, and this is January 2009, so it was a few months before he died. Mylon's Secret Castle was okay. This one's a bit more interesting than Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, I think, because just the way the game is designed is a little more interesting. It's really just him walking you through the first area of the game and how cryptic it is. And the way that they hid these secrets is fun for him to explain. And yeah, back then it would have been nonsense, but you know, we have present privilege. We can look things up on the internet. So I believe that this episode is also the first appearance of the NES shelf. As we can see in Moonwalker, he still had those games above the TV. There's some creative camera shots in this one though, like when he's reading Nintendo Power, or revealing that he's getting hit by lightning while just standing outside the castle. Mylon's Secret Castle, though, I'm kind of on the fence between a smiley face and a fine. I'm gonna go with fine, because I guess that's just the kind of mood I'm in right now. Jaguar, one that obviously had an influence on me. I got the frickin' shirt on. The Atari Jaguar is an interesting specimen. I wish he played a few more games, but he was still able to get his hands on quite a few of them. It was released in 2 parts. Part 1 is just him telling you the history of the system and the debate about whether or not it's actually 64 bits. And then part 2, he's actually playing some damn games. Or as he says, play some Jag, yeah. Which happened to be my initials, interestingly enough. The Doom Scale, yeah, the Doom Scale. In typical James fashion, it somehow ends with him fighting the rotating Jaguar cube, which appears when you start a game. And then his cat joins in, which it's just footage of his cat playing with a laser pointer, but he superimposed the cube over it. It's pretty funny he found a way to use playing with his cat with a laser pointer to incorporate that into his video. The brown peanut butter looking shit he takes on the Jaguar is, I was going to call it the most iconic nerd shit, but no, that's still Bugs Bunny. This is second place. But the Jaguar with the CD does look like a toilet, and that's very funny. Disappointing he couldn't get one to work though, because it could have extended the episode a little longer, and we could have gotten a cool segment about the Highlander game or something. Not quite Gold Collection, but this is still a solid couple of episodes. We're going with a smiley face. Metal Gear. Don't have much to say about this one. It's not like terrible, but it's not great either. That's all I got. I'm sorry. I don't have anything constructive to say about this one. Oh, well, here's one. This has become a lost spot in the nerd room. His back to the NES shelf while he's explaining the game. He went through a phase where he did this a few times, and this is the first instance of that. Odyssey, this is an easy pioneering. Not to say it's a bad episode, but it's not the funniest. There's not really a lot of jokes. Except for like the gun at the end. Like him fake shooting the TV is pretty funny because it does look like a real gun. But I like AVGN episodes where he just gets to show off a whole bunch of physical stuff. And this is a comprehensive look at the Odyssey. Like who else was doing that? I like how he found relevant NES music for every little Odyssey game. That's cute. The nerdy turd is not cute. I don't know why he didn't just bring Shit Pickle back. He had to invent a new shit character just to have 2-player games on the Odyssey? That's weird. Did he not use Shit Pickle because he didn't have hands? The character had to have hands? I don't know. What's wrong with being sexy? Nah, I didn't say that. This is an intimate camera angle. It's almost as if we're on the couch next to him. But this is another license where obviously James doesn't have that strong a connection to it. And the games themselves aren't that funny either. X-Men on NES is horrendously awful, as I discovered when I was making my worst NES games video. But I don't know, I feel like he doesn't quite get that over here. At least this isn't one that sticks in my mind after watching it as like one of the worst games on the system. This gets a fine rating. Terminator begins with a really cool themed intro, and there's some memorable bits in this one, like putting the wrench on the controller. Is that what you want to do with your life, man? That's senseless. Obviously, another American movie reference. It's a two-parter. The first one is about Terminator 1 games, the second one is about Terminator 2 games. And if you'll allow me to brag, I've actually finished Terminator 2 on the Super Nintendo. It's one of the more difficult games I've ever completed. And yeah, the motorcycle controls are BS. This is just another one for the pile, though. Transformers! He brought back the Commodore for this. And I feel like if I gave X-Men and Terminator fine, I have to give this episode fine as well, because it's probably weaker than both those. This is the Billy Mitchell. He could probably do it. That's right, we're gonna cheat. Well, obviously that's not from the actual episode. That's a mashup of the two, but still, it's like the funniest thing ever. But that was an odd inclusion, right? Like, why is he talking about Billy Mitchell in this game? And James, if you were able to finish it, the game can't be that hard. The Famicom coming alive at the end was a cool effect. Other than that, though, this is just a basic episode. Mario is missing. I feel like he got to this one a little bit too late, because if this were the episode where I learned about all these bad Mario games on the Super Nintendo and on the NES, I think this would have stuck in my mind as a much more memorable episode. But as it stands, I already knew about these, so I remembered being disappointed when this episode came out. On the rewatch, it's not bad by any means. It's just not the funniest one in the world. He had a really clean keying of the title screen over him holding up the SNES game. Completely unnecessary, but it's a cool effect. Another one for the fine pile. I'm kind of lower on this era of AVGN than I expected. Was 2009 when AVGN started to go downhill? Of course not, because the next episode is Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. And my take on this episode is exactly the same as my take on the Mario is Missing episode. When it came out, I didn't like it because I already knew about the game. I already knew about Plumbers Don't Wear Ties and all this stuff. So, hearing the nerd just recap the game, it didn't hit. But of course, this is one of the most legendary AVGN episodes. If you ask, 10 AVGN fans what their favorite episode is, it's probably 3 or 4 of them would say this one. It's a really popular one. And yeah, it's funny, but it's not funny because of James. It's funny because the game is funny. This is another one where he just needs to tell you what is happening in the game, and then that speaks for itself. But the episode itself, I will concede, is incredibly entertaining, and I have to put it in gold collection. Even if it's not a personal favorite, this is absolutely a must in the AVGN library. It's one of the most famous episodes. The game he's covering is absolutely ridiculous and bonkers, and he's a good vehicle to experience that through. And any video with this image, yeah, we can all hear it, has to be in the top tier. Then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, we have Bugs Bunny's Crazy Castle, where James does 99.999% of the work here. And it's amazing. I fucking love this episode. I think this one's a bit more controversial because it's just a big fight scene between him and Bugs Bunny, but it's an awesome holy shit fight. It's the craziest fight he's ever done. He's never come close to topping it. He takes some significant bumps here too. I always thought that the shot of him getting pushed into his NES shelf and then the game's landing on his head, that had to have hurt. And this is what's so great about AVGN. We can go from Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, which is a really straightforward, he just recaps what happens in the game, to this, and they're both still a part of the same show. We still accept it, and they're both really entertaining in their own way. The effort in this one is insane. Bugs getting his revenge is a great idea, especially doing the bunny turds on the nerd's face. James is such an awesome actor and performer. He's able to sell getting hurt like a wrestler. And this is the first nerd fight that isn't one-sided. I feel like every time he gets into a fight, he'll either job straight out like he does to the, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or to the Joker or something. And then of course at the end of the Batman episode, he beats up the Joker anyway, or he just completely dominates. It's rare that both the combatants get offense in. I guess his fight against the Nostalgia Critic would have already happened, and that fits this criteria too. Shit, where would that go in the tier list? That would probably be gold collection too. I love that crap. He got to use his fake blood skills as well as his fake shit skills with the Bugs Bunny turds. This episode gets violent. He rips Bugs' head off. In terms of how impressed I am at the production of an episode, this might be the most impressive one. Oh, and the behind the scenes for this one is great too. You should definitely watch that. Then he follows that up with the Super Pitfall, which I would poo-poo for being not a great video because it's really not. But the opening joke, let's play charades, that's gotta be a top 5 funniest thing he's ever done, and it saves the entire video for me. Super Pitfall is terrible, and he does an adequate job of walking us through it. It's just not an especially funny or memorable game after that opening gag. I'm still gonna give it a smiley face though, just because of that opening. And then I'm surprised it took him this long to get to Godzilla, considering how big a fan he is of the series. Of course, his second Monster Madness, which would have already happened, was all about Godzilla, so it's only natural he would do Godzilla games. And it's a shame I don't like this episode more, because his love for Godzilla shines through in this. He's obviously speaking as somebody who's really knowledgeable about the series. It's just that the Godzilla games aren't especially bad or funny or memorable. I've always felt the production on this one to be a little uninspired. It's just him on the couch for most of it until the very end when he goes on a Godzilla rampage. But the rampage is just him knocking some Super Nintendo games off his shelf. Like, he could have done way more with this idea. That he gets so mad at the games that he goes on a rampage through his room, but he didn't want to get anything messed up, I guess. So we just have to settle for this. And is it ironic that a guy who loves dressing Kyle or Mike or whoever up and then beating the crap out of them and filming fight scenes and stuff, he gets this franchise which is famous for having a guy in a rubber suit run around like miniatures of a city, and he doesn't do anything like that with a Godzilla episode. It's just a straightforward look at all the games. That's a missed opportunity, right? Like, he could have had Mike in like a shitty Godzilla outfit jumping up and down or something. I don't know. I feel like if he had more time or whatever, more resources or more whatever he's got to devote to these episodes back then, like, he probably would have done something cooler, but I don't know. I feel like Godzilla, since he liked it so much, it should have been the kind of property that he waited until he did have the time to like do it right. Not that this episode's bad. I know I'm saying like I'm down on it, but it's going in the fine tier, which I think is disappointing for something like this. Wayne's World. The games are really boring. This is a fine. Then comes his 4-part Castlevania retrospective. They're not, the most well-spoken thoughts about the Castlevania games. They're not the best, analysis. They're not the funniest episodes. In fact, these episodes aren't really funny at all. But for some reason, there's something just really comfy about them. These are always a go-to. I want to watch some classic Golden Era AVGN. The Castlevania ones are on my short list. I think they're on anybody's short list to just throw on and enjoy. I think I would be fooling everybody if I didn't put this in the gold collection because it is worthy. Even if on my rewatch, I really am struggling for nice things to say about them. His recollection of his experience with the Castlevania games, it's really interesting. Even if the only thing he was fucking up in 64 is he just didn't hit the C buttons. He didn't think to use the C buttons for fucking items, which is stupid, but those games suck anyway. Come at me, Castlevania 64 fans, I don't care. This establishes that he thinks that Castlevania 4 is the best one because you can whip in all directions, which, you know what, fair. I don't agree, but fair. Of course, he revisits Castlevania 2 and actually does it right this time. We're coming up on the revisited episodes soon, but we're not there yet. This is the first one he would do. He would go back to Castlevania 2. And yeah, I don't know. The Castlevania episodes are just comfy. Little Red Hood was funnier than I remembered. I remembered this episode being bad, but it got some chuckles out of me. I noticed that when he cuts to Super 3D Noah's Ark, he reused footage he shot for that episode, even though it didn't make it into the final product. And I know because just that one shot is in widescreen and the rest of it's in 4:3. He didn't even zoom into the footage. I like how how he stacks all this stuff on top of the little Red Hood cartridge. And then when he does the over the couch shot talking about the game, you can see in the background the game playing with all that stuff still on top of it. That's a fun attention to detail. Games like Little Red Hood, it's almost like he's punching down too far. It's like, this is a bootleg piece of shit game. I feel like you could reach at the bottom of the barrel and find like 20 Little Red Hoods. And I'm impressed he got this much material out of what is essentially a one-screen game where you walk back and forth and kick trees till cherries fall down. Thank you for your coming. You know what? I talked this one up. It's going into smiley face tier. I think it's funnier than like all the ones I put in fine. Winter Games. This is one I had as a kid, so it was cathartic seeing James also not know how to do the figure skating. I still don't know how to do the figure skating. And I noticed that when he's demonstrating the game on the TV, he actually manages to get the girl to jump in the air just by mashing buttons on the controller, which I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever been able to do that either. His experience playing that is my experience playing that. You just hit buttons and she falls down. He's wearing the Atari jacket because, hey, winter snow, so he has a jacket on, I guess. For a Christmas special, Winter Games is much more low-key, but I revisit it more than I revisit Christmas Carol, and doing all the stuff it says explicitly not to do to the cartridge is a good ending. For some reason, they replaced the music at the end in the season compilation video, but the YouTube upload retains the original's music. So it depends how you watch this one. I've talked myself into a smiley face. I was gonna give this fine. I wrote fine in my notes, but I'm gonna give it a smile. Street Fighter 2010. Remember when 2010 was the future? The gag of him walking outside and then it's the Street Fighter 2010 game world with all the sprites floating around. That's good. This is one of those games which is only noteworthy because of the name. If this were called anything else, nobody would remember it, but because it's called Street Fighter 2010, you have no choice but to just point out how it's not like Street Fighter the whole time. And that's really the demarcation of this episode, is half of it he spends complaining that it's nothing like Street Fighter. And it's like, okay, just accept that and move on, dude. I'm giving out a lot of fine ratings to these episodes in this range, and I'm gonna give another one to this. And that's not even like a bad thing. It's like, as Lisa Simpson would say, it's after so many episodes, the character just can't have the same impact anymore. I feel like if Street Fighter 2010 was an episode from 2007, it could be exactly the same, but I would have it in one of these top two tiers. But because it's in 2009, it's like, he doesn't have exactly the same energy that he once had. Even as early as 2009, I would say. The energy has shifted. He doesn't feel actually angry that much anymore. He feels more like performatively like, oh yeah, this game sucks. Like, I gotta play the shitty games or whatever. It feels more gimmicked, you know? Don't get me wrong, these are all entertaining videos. Pretty much anything outside the what was he thinking tier, I would consider a solid watch. It's really just these 5 videos down here where I'm like, yeah, maybe skip these. Hyde lied. He teased this one in his NES collection video, which back when I was a kid or a young teen or however old I was, it felt like forever between him teasing that and then the Hyde lied episode coming out. But looking back, it was only 6 months, so I guess learn to wait, young me. I guess it's better than using drugs or alcohol, because with drugs and alcohol, you always lose. Might be the most awkward AVGN moment, but it's also a reference to American Movie. Might as well be reaching inside of a dog's asshole, because all you're gonna find is shit. Why did it have to be a dog, James? It could have just been any asshole, right? Not much going on with this one, though. Another fine. Ninja Gaiden, and oh my god, the zoom lens. Holy shit, the zoom lens. I am so jealous of his zooms. I want a camera that can do that. What was he gonna say? What the fuck? I don't know why, but I quote that all the time. Kevin Finn plays the ninja, and I miss the good old days when I could blame everything I don't like that James Rolfe does on Kevin Finn. I love that he does this whole character and this storyline with the ninja. Only in the end, the ninja can't beat the game either. It's so hard. This is another one. Like, I've finished Ninja Gaiden before. It's difficult, I guess, but it's not the hardest game in the world. It's not as hard. It's not hard enough that I would center my entire video about the game, about how hard it is, you know? And that really is his take on a lot of games. It's just him complaining how hard they are. When he does so many, you start to see patterns. This is a good episode, though. A definite smile, at least. If not a gold collection, but no. I'm not that nice right now. Sword Quest. We get to add another one to the pioneering tier. Because like Odyssey, this one's more educational than it is anything else. It's more just, hey, Atari ran this really cool contest in the early 80s, and here were the prizes, here were the solutions to the puzzles. There's not really a lot of jokes. It's him just explaining what Sword Quest was. But fortunately, Sword Quest was an interesting tale. This is closer to like a gaming historian video, but this was before the gaming historian even, so it was closer to like that sort of thing than it is an angry video game nerd episode. And I can say almost the exact same thing about Pong consoles as well. This is going in the pioneering tier. Another one where it's cool that he gets to show off all of this physical junk, all of these different game systems which were dedicated to just playing Pong. It's absurd that so many of them existed. Him actually playing a Coleco Telstar is a legendary moment. Him just pulling them out, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. That's an all-time AVGN moment. There's some good stuff in here, but it's just not, it's not funny, and he's talking about fucking Pong. In sort of a strange moment at the end, he's like, oh, let's play some Xbox 360, and then he plays GTA 4, which is in 4x3. We get standard def 4x3 Xbox 360 gameplay in this episode, which is a really fun relic. He has a black Xbox 360 Elite, by the way, which is objectively the coolest model. Action 52, and we're gonna include the sequel Cheetah Men in this as well. He reviews the first 51 Action 52 games in this, and then he does Cheetah Men as its own video after this. We're going gold collection, just straight off the bat. I don't even think I need to elaborate with Action 52. It's a really compelling episode, only because he gets to do his shtick of just hammering just like one joke per game. Like one game, one joke. That's it. You just need to think of one funny thing to say about each of them. But he gets to do it all in the context of one really shitty game that is, like 52 just really crappy ones built into it. More games, yeah! Safety pins. That'll be perfect. Two of my favorite AVGN moments. It's a Nintoaster, and yes, it works. I find part 2 about Cheetah Men to be less interesting than the Action 52 one, but, lumping them together, it's a 2-for-1 deal. It's part of the gold collection. Game glitches. Ooh, this is probably the last one I'm going to get to add to the pioneering tier. This is another one where, it's not that funny. It's him just kind of showing off a bunch of weird stuff that has happened while he was playing games. And anybody who's played a bunch of NES has had the universal experience of a cartridge just deciding that it's gonna be all fucked up now until you give it a good scrubbing. Sometimes you just gotta do that with NES games, or they half work. I think it's adorable that the way he contextualizes having these glitches in the games is there's a little gremlin living inside them. That's just a fun idea. And Kevin Finn does a good job bringing the character to life too. Oh, and the intro always makes me think that my internet is crapping out. It gets me every single time this episode plays. This episode exists outside the typical AVGN continuum though. And I think that's my criteria for Pioneer tier. Zelda 2 is surprisingly weak. I remembered liking this episode a lot more than I actually did on my rewatch. It's an awesome game, but it's just him complaining. But luckily for him, there is plenty of legitimate things you can complain about in Zelda 2. Don't get me wrong, I love the game. I had it as my number 1 NES game, and I still think that might be true. I liked him bringing back the Power Glove for the ending bit fighting Shadow Link. I'm feeling fine with this one, though. I'm not feeling a smiley face. Back to the Future revisited. It's not just revisited, it's revisited. Because the first Back to the Future episode was him revisiting it from when he was a kid. Also, this title card is huge. Why is it taller than it is wide? The George Lucas parody where he's changing all his old episodes is cute. But it's also a little ironic because he's known to have made minor changes to his episodes in the past. So him going on and saying, I have no plans to change my previous work. It's like you already kind of have. And the Mad Lad actually did it. I don't know if I've ever talked to a gaming review YouTuber who didn't want to go back to their earlier videos to do them, better justice or to put their better foot forward, or they regret saying something or they regret not bringing something up. I've even known people who have actually like taken down their old video and put up like a new one on the same game. And it usually doesn't go well because who the fuck cares? But in this case, people actually did the fuck care. And it was deserved. James is one of the only people who can actually get away with doing something like that. He doesn't just go back to the Future, though, as the title card shows. He also goes back to Top Gun and Roger Rabbit and Ninja Turtles as well. This time explaining, yeah, he does actually know how to land the plane, or he has since learned. Roger Rabbit, he finishes the game. Ninja Turtles, he makes it past level 3. Back to the Future, he actually talks about the sequel a lot more, which is good because that game is fucking bonkers. This episode, though, is significant for one reason. It's the last episode to come out before he announced the AVGN movie. The video where he's sitting in front of like his door. This is the script for the AVGN movie. That video came out between this episode and the next one, which was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde revisited. But I still gotta tear this. It's getting a smiley face. So this was in 2010. The AVGN movie would cast a long and wide shadow over the entire series for the next 4 years. This right here, the whole tier list that we're looking at, this is the result of about 4 years. A couple of the videos were from 2004, but the vast majority of them, were made from 2006 to 2010. So like what you're looking at, double that. And that's how long the movie was looming over the show. Of course, he wouldn't make nearly as many episodes in the next 4 years as he did in the last 4 years, but it just puts it into perspective. His entire prime era happens, and then in the same amount of time, it's like the waiting for the AVGN movie era. And I do think that the anticipating the AVGN movie is an era in and of itself. I think we're officially post-prime. Not to say that nothing he does after this isn't good, but it's like the glory days, like the bulk of the gold collection, I think is behind him at this point. And what a great way to usher in a new era than going back to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. This was necessary because it's his nemesis game. He invented the concept of even having a nemesis game. And of course, as you know, all game reviewers on the internet have a nemesis game. Mine is Animal Crossing, of course. I really like the Jaws NES, like sort of chiptune music playing as he's putting the game in the system, only for him to keep pulling it back out and saying increasingly unrelated things to belabor playing it. Here's a trick James does all the time that I haven't commented on yet. Whenever he's doing anything horror adjacent or anything that's supposed to be like an old 20s or 30s Universal monster movie, just anything like super old-timey or horror related, he'll like blur or darken the corners of the screen to kind of like mimic an old like silent film look. He also did this in the AVGN movie announcement video for some reason. He talks to a skeleton in this episode. I didn't remember that. I don't know if this is essential viewing, but it kind of is just for like the lore of the character. Like this is a lore heavy game, and like it kind of lives up to the hype too, because this is the first time we actually kind of see the inner workings of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and it is stupid. It is nonsense. He is right about that. I don't know though. I think I'm just gonna give it a smiley face. Maybe I'm just a hater. Then he follows it up with Lester the Unlikely. And once upon a time, in a time before the slobs, before they existed, before the Angry Video Game Nerd entered like the modern or the slob era, before it all went to shit, not to say that everything he does now is shit, but you know what I'm saying, like before Zombie AVGN. This used to be the episode that I think most people said was the worst one and where it all started to go downhill. It's kind of quaint looking back on that, but I totally see why. Like this episode stinks. The whole video is just him complaining about the premise of the game. Why is he so weak? And it's like, okay, that's the fucking point of the game. It's a concoction of him like fundamentally not understanding the game. Him just doing a basic game review after he's given us so much gold. There are so many transcendent AVGN episodes that when he puts one out that like isn't that, it's just really basic and it's mostly just voiceover and it isn't really that funny and it doesn't even provide like a good look at the game. It's just like when you do that enough times, it's not always gonna hit. And this one, like, I wouldn't say it's horrible, but I also always skip it. And rewatching it for this, yeah, I see why I always skipped it, because it's just not a very good episode. Maybe it's just because I was a little older when these were coming out. Like, there's a big difference between discovering the AVGN in 2008 and I'm like 12. And now by the time these episodes are coming out, I'm 14. It's like the difference between a 12 and a 14-year-old it's significant, right? You can just tell it's not the same. Like, I'm getting older, he was getting older, everybody's getting older. They feel like they're missing the same chaotic energy as the ones from a few years before this. Not to say that like the objective quality is worse, because they're not. He is giving a better look at most of these games, and he has more high concept episodes now usually. It's just funnier when the character is new and fresh than it was 96 episodes in with Lester the Unlikely. This is going in What Was He Thinking tier. Then we have How the Nerd Stole Christmas, and I'm just using a screenshot. I'm not even going to download the thumbnail properly. Does anybody else remember this minor controversy? I swear. This is what I remember. I remember on his website, on Cinemaster.com, the nerd really hyped up this episode. James was saying that this was like one of the most creative and one of the best episodes he's done in a long time, and he can't wait to show it to you. But then the next thing that got uploaded to Game Trailers was a clip show. I don't think it was like a top 10 moments of the year, but it was like some kind of like recap-y clip thing. And then everybody was pissed off thinking that that's what he meant. But this controversy only lasted a couple days, because like a couple days later, this video dropped and we all understood what he was talking about, like why he said this episode was so special. But at the same time, it was also disappointing in its own way, because, well, cute, How the Nerd Stole Christmas isn't that entertaining, I hate to say, because clearly a lot of effort was put into this. He got some like other people to narrate that make it sound more like British. He got artists to draw all this. It's commendable that he made the whole thing work and rhyme. Yet whenever I'm rewatching Angry Video Game Nerd episodes, I always skip this one. I don't even like hate watch this one. I don't even like give this one another chance to think that maybe I was wrong. I just don't enjoy watching this one. I think it's commendable that he made it. I just don't think it's entertaining, which really sucks. I hate that dichotomy. I hate when I watch something and I'm like, I can appreciate all that went into this, but at the same time, don't do it again because it kind of sucked. But also at the same time, I understand the need to experiment and not do the same fucking thing every time. I was just complaining about that in the Lester the Unlikely video. So this was him doing something new. It's just a shame that the experiment didn't really pay off. Sadly, I'm putting this in What Was He Thinking tier. Daydreamin' Davey. I'm over here dreaming about a more interesting episode. Fine, it is. Episode 99, Star Wars games. James still has his fastball sometimes, because this is one of the best episodes in AVGN history, and it kind of snuck up on me. Going into this one, I didn't think I was going to like it nearly as much as I did, but it has so many like A or S tier moments that I can't overlook it. It has to go in the gold collection. It was such a long time coming too. He could have done a Star Wars episode in like 2006, and this is one of the rare cases where I'm glad he took his time so we got like a more produced result. The Star Wars games from back then were all of fine quality, which he even admits in the video, but they're all ridiculously hard. And I think that too. This isn't even a case of him just sucking. No, the games are actually really hard. I am your father, and I am also a fucking scorpion. He handled that reaction perfectly. He doesn't overdo it, but he also doesn't undersell it either. He's a master of timing when he wants to be. It's gonna go boom. This is Atari, I know it. It's gonna go boom. Disco fuck yourself. This is worse than a piece of shit. It's a whole shit. The life bar going off the TV for Super Star Wars. Him making up all those fake Star Wars games at the end. Chewie's Wookiee cookie cooking. Admiral Akbar's Farts Unleashed. These are all from the same episode. These are all good bits. The beat a game button, that was from this too. I like how he's doing this bit and then he gets up and like mocks his Nintendo games like, consider yourselves beat. And then in character, he realizes that it's stupid and he goes back to playing the games. That's really fucking funny. In many ways, Star Wars games would be the final classic nerd episode. It's the last one to be presented in 4x3, and it would represent the end of consistent episodes for until the movie comes out, really. He would still make AVGNs while working on the movie. They were just much more sporadic. He was doing once a month in 2010, and then in 2009 through 2006, he was doing twice a month. But over the next few years, it was on a whenever he feels like it cadence. Then episode 100, we have Rob the Robot, which might be the most difficult episode to rank in the entire AVGN canon. I think it's probably the one with the most divisive opinions, and I wish I had a stronger take on it, but I really don't. I think this episode is pretty good, but I don't think it's as good or as special as he wanted it to be. He clearly wanted this to be like the big 100 episode, even like sort of a soft finale for the show. This was him saying goodbye to like this era of AVGN, and then hello and welcome the movie, the HD era, and all of that after this. It's the first one that he filmed in widescreen, even though it's not in HD yet, it's just in widescreen. And I don't know, I think that this episode might have benefited from bringing somebody else into the production. I know in the behind the scenes, he said that his wife helped him with a couple shots, but for the most part, this was just him by himself. I don't know, it could have used somebody else's energy. I know he's fighting a robot, so I don't know how you would have worked him in. Maybe just like having an external cameraman would have helped, because there are some moments in this where like he's literally just has the camera on top of him and he's like play fighting with the camera. There's a segment in this video where he grabs a Mario doll and like has that fight Rob the Robot. Half the episode is a fight scene against Rob the Robot, and I think he does the best with what he has, but unfortunately what he has is just himself. And he's fighting a little toy robot. And I don't think there's any way to make that not fucking lame. It's nowhere near as epic or exciting as him fighting Bugs Bunny or anybody else who's like a man in a costume. And then when he does all the green screen shit at the end, it just looks cheap. I mean, this looks closer to the end of the Game Over Thinker than it does a classic AVGN bit. The games themselves, there's almost nothing to say. Him making the Gyromite controller is funny, though. I do appreciate him trying to tell a story with this episode, but I don't think it works as well as like the Halloween one or the Texas Chainsaw Massacre one. Again, much like my feelings with the Nerd Before Christmas or whatever that one was called, I really appreciate all the effort that went into this one. You could tell he went all out with the production, but at the same time, I'm just not that entertained by it. I do think it's better than the Christmas one, and I will rewatch this one when I go back and rewatch AVGN. In fact, I might even put this in the Gold Collection, because even though I think it's nowhere near the best AVGN episode, my idea for the Gold Collection is like, these are the quintessentials. Like, watch these, and you've seen all of the AVGN that you really need to. I feel like this episode, even though I don't like it that much, might be required viewing, just because it's so important to James, and like it being the 100th episode, it's just a big blowout, and he obviously went all out on it. So it's like, if you're a fan of James more so than the nerd, it's like you almost owe it to yourself to watch this one. I don't think it's a pioneer. I don't think it belongs in that category either. I think this is the most dubious and the most contentious Gold Collection inclusion. I think that's where I'm going to land with Rob. And really, this is where I should stop the tier list if I'm being fair. But James would continue to produce episodes for game trailers for another year. Luckily for us, that only means 6 more episodes. He came back 6 months later with episode 101 Spielberg Games, aka Gielberg Games, which isn't even a joke from this video. It's from the Castlevania ones. I didn't like this one as much as I expected to. I remembered this being one of the better episodes, but then on the rewatch, I had almost nothing to say about it, and I barely wrote anything down. It wasn't that funny. The games weren't that interesting. I think this is just a sneaky find. Let me put it another way. It's closer to Daydream and Davy than it is to Star Wars games. 102, making of. As you can see, Mike stopped drawing title cards. This is pioneering. I love this episode. I feel like this is borderline gold collection, but yeah, it definitely fits more with the pioneering one. It's sort of a non-AVGN. It's kind of cheeky that this even gets to count in the official AVGN episode list, because it's him walking you through his process of making an AVGN episode, which I'm really interested in people's workflows, especially somebody as, influential as James. Getting to see how he makes these videos was a real treat. Kid Cool sucks. This video blows. I don't know. Does it blow or is it just fine? That's the thing. And I think just as the series goes on, I understand wanting to fight back against the scope creep of his videos. Like, hey, can't I just put out a simple episode every once in a while? That doesn't make them not disappointing when they happen. It's like, this is a 2006 episode he made in 2011. So if anybody's saying Kid Cool is one of their favorite AVGN episodes, they're fucking lying, because it's not. Next was Nintendo World Championships, and this one's way more interesting. It's got a lot more going on. And you see him right there with Pat the NES Punk. And holy crap, what a windfall for Pat. Go look at what Pat was making at this time and then what James was making at this time. And he was like, James was on a whole other level. There were tiers separating them. Back when this episode came out, believe it or not, I was pissed off that it didn't keep with the continuity in Pat's show. Because if you watched the Punk videos going up to this, he sets up a storyline where like James steals the game out from under him and then absconds back to his house. So he needs to like fly across the country to get the games back. But then in the AVGN episode, like that's not at all the storyline they went with. And I thought like, oh, that fucker James, like he's just taking his own creative liberties. He's going into business for himself, brother. But I don't know if this episode's well liked or not, but I like it a lot. I don't think it's quite in gold tier, but I think it's a definite smiley face. I'm a sucker for an episode with a story, just not the Rob one apparently, but this one has a story. And Nintendo World Championships, like the game itself, there's not much to say about it. Like the review only takes up the last minute of the video or so. I just think it's fun seeing him interact with another character. And the nerd jobs in this too. Like he invites Pat over, he gives Pat this, elevates Pat to his level, invites him on his show, and then Pat goes over. Like the nerd jobs at the competition. Okay, so the conceit of the episode, they're competing to see who gets a high score in Nintendo World Championships to see who would keep the games. And they wrote it so the nerd loses. It's a fun ending that he gets pissed off that the game sucks and then breaks them. Like, that's amazing. Just that they thought to go in that direction with these. It's really funny. I was listening to a Pat the NES Punk panel within the last year, and I'm filming this in 2026, so many years after this video was shot. And somebody asked Pat perhaps the stupidest fucking question I've ever heard anybody ask anybody. He was basically asking Pat, like, if he actually thought that the game in the box was The Legend of Zelda. He's like, oh, you went over to James' house and did you actually think it was Zelda? Like, that was a serious question he fucking asked Pat.
Well, did you really think you pulled out Zelda when you pulled out the gold card of NES World Championships?
And then Pat had to politely say, no, you fucking idiot. It's a show. It's not real. You freaking moron. It's choreographed. It's fake. You know what? Actually, I think I changed my mind. Fuck you. Fuck you if you hate this episode. It's going in gold collection. It's funny. Him destroying the games at the end, that's funny. Gold cartridge, gold collection. 2 episodes left. Dark Castle. It's all right. It's fine. I like seeing the CDI make an appearance. That's always cool. This is also the first episode where Kyle is dead now. You see the skeleton in the background with his hat on. This is also the first episode in HD, unless Bible Games 2 was in HD, and I'm just forgetting. I don't remember if that was just in widescreen or it was in HD. I think it was in HD, so this is the second episode in HD. And by HD, at this stage, I mean 720p. The previous episodes, Nintendo World Championships and Spielberg games, were and Rob. They were widescreen, but they weren't in HD. They were still 480. Then the final episode of the classic nerd game trailers era is Bible Games 3, and we kind of go out on a whimper. This is undoubtedly the weakest of the 3 Bible games because it's the scraps of scraps. He even says in this video that part 3 is never as good. In this one, he talks about the King James Bible on Game Boy, which is just the Bible on a Game Boy. It's funny that he searches the word ass. And then he talks about all the games he already did on the NES, but the Genesis versions. It's only 14 minutes, which is disappointing. The original Bible Games was the longest to date when he made that at 21 and a half in 2006. And then 5 years later, he puts out a less funny, shorter Bible Games, talking largely about games that he's already covered. Yeah, disappointingly, the last episode of this era, number 106, is just fine. Even extending this tier list to 106, I think was a bit too many. But it's fine, like whatever. What's done is done. This would begin a dry era for AVGN. In 2011, he only made 6 episodes, and then in 2012, he only made 3. And I think in this gap is when he goes from being the fucking nerd, the fucking man, the king of all retro gaming content on YouTube, in his 2-year sabbatical here making the movie, even though he doesn't completely go away, he cedes a lot of ground to YouTube as a whole. Basically, the competition would get better. He would get a little weaker. He would just be lower energy going forward. I think that's the main difference between classic, I'm actually really angry, and modern, acting angry. He's not actually that angry. Dad nerd. You get dad AVGN. He's cracking dad jokes from here on out. He goes from the guy to just another guy, which isn't bad. Everybody's just another guy. I'm just another guy. The whole fucking website's just another guy. But even though I still think it's up and down, he still can make some good content. It's just not the same. It's not the same because I'm not the same. It's not the same because he's not the same. It's because time moves forward and things change, and anything that keeps going long enough eventually just loses the spark that it once had. But that's all I have to say about Classic Nerd. Join me next time. I don't know when the next time's going to be. Next time might be in a week, it might be in a month, where I talk about all of the modern nerd episodes. Well, maybe not all of them, but I'll give you my thoughts on modern nerds some other time. But for now, I think this video is long enough. Shout out to the patrons. See y'all later.